computer. Live on Facebook. Give me a second. I got to finish this.
I need to get
All right, we're live, Donna, on Facebook.
hello. Where I got it. All right.
All right, I'm gonna make you a co-host with me, Donna. And
Thank you.
oh, I think there we go. And we're gonna
There we
get
go.
everybody
I
in
see
here.
us now. Yes.
Hi,
Okay.
everybody.
So 4 people entered. Oh, you got them.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. We're gonna just let a few more people come on in and then we'll get started.
We are live on Facebook. Woohoo!
We figured out our technological
Get a couple-
issues. That's great.
Yes. If you're on Facebook right now, please ask questions in the Facebook comment section and we'll try and get to it live. We'll just be starting in just a moment. We're just waiting for other people to come in.
If you haven't had a chance, we have posted on our YouTube channel, Vegan Travel Association, yesterday's sessions. We've also, Donna, I think, posted it in the Facebook group as well. I caught you right when you were taking a sip.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Dan, you posted the session from yesterday in the Facebook group?
Yes, I did. So if you didn't get a chance to see it because you couldn't be on fit, because you couldn't get into Zoom, please check it out. It is about 4 hours long, so take your time. It was a full day.
Oh, it was only 3. It was only 3
hours. It was 3 hours.
No, it was 2 to 5.
Okay.
We kept it. We tried to keep everybody. I think we ran over 1 or 2 minutes, so we did pretty good on the scheduling.
It just seemed like 4 because I think you and I were practicing so much.
That's while we were making sure everything was working, right?
Yes.
All right. I think we can get started, Donna.
Good. So I want to welcome everyone back to the Vegan Travel Association's first mini summit, Christmas in July, day 2. We will be recording the session and it's being streamed live on Facebook. So if you cannot stay for the duration, you'll be able to come back and watch these sessions at your convenience. And due to the nature of working with people across the time zones and across the world, we had to pre-record some of the sessions we'll be presenting over the course of this mini summit, but your questions will still be answered by one of us and our guests during the live Q&A session near the end of our time today. You can submit them either via chat in the Facebook or here on the Zoom, or you can turn off your microphone or turn on your microphone and ask the questions at the end. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce myself and then Jason's going to introduce himself. My name is Donna Zeigfinger. I am the owner of Green Earth Travel, and we are a full service travel agency. We focus in on cruelty-free and vegan food travel. And we also specialize in arranging dream vacations. I do a lot of honeymoons and a lot of family trips as well. Donna's years, talking third person here, my years of travel experience, outstanding customer service, and behind the scenes savvy to bring to life your fantasy dream vacation.
And
Go ahead, Jason.
My name is Jason McGregor, and I'm actually the owner of Vegan Vacations. We are a Canadian vegan owned and operated full service travel agency. We, like Donna, work with clients to try and help them craft great plant-based and vegan friendly experiences. We started this business out of the fact that we had some travel experiences that I'm sure many vegans have had in the past, not so optimal and not so fantastic. And we thought we can do better and we can ensure that people who have dietary requirements have support and can travel and experience the exact same as any traveler would. We pride ourselves on amplifying the voice of the vegan traveler. Our goal is really to try and make sure that there are more and more options and more understanding of what the vegan lifestyle is. And we have worked with a ton of families booking vacations. We found that most of our clients are not fully vegan, but have family members and travel partners who are vegan. So we're really just trying to spread the information that this lifestyle is accessible and you can travel and have a great experience when you work with us. So thank you, Donna, for having me back again today. And I'm really excited. These two sessions that we had some great conversations with our guests today.
Yeah, and I do want to also say that one thing I forgot is this year, August 1st, is Greener Travel's 25th anniversary. And it's also next year going to be the 40th anniversary of me being vegan. So I'm going to try and do something special next year. So keep your eyes out. I want to give you a little bit of history again. If you didn't hear it yesterday, some of you might have heard it, but we have the Vegan Travel Association, which more information will be coming soon. And it's just taking us longer than usual to get everything together. But there was a group of us that started this back in December of 2020. I wasn't unemployed, but I wasn't working. A lot of us weren't really working very hard. And I wanted to try and keep the travel business, especially the vegan travel business, alive. And so I contacted Jason and Jennifer Kern-Kaminsky and Brighde and Gretchen Sheridan and a few others. There was about 9 total, and said, hey, let's do, something for Veganuary. And so we literally put that together in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, something like that. Yeah, because we did like 8 sessions over. It was 7
sessions over 2 weeks, and we had over 200 attendees that first year.
Was it 2 weeks? I thought we did 3 weeks. Okay. Well, anyway, I can't keep up with it because the second session was like 2 weeks long, and we had. So we had about 9 people, and we did how many workshops? We did 8, 7.
Oh, we did 7.
We did 7. And then after that, we got so many followers, we decided to start the Vegan Travel Summit. I think back then it was called Traveling in a New Vegan World Facebook group, but it's now called the Vegan Travel Summit. Mm-hmm. And if you want to join it, it's on Facebook. I will put the link in a short while. And we've now got over 2,300 members in the group. And
I'll have to update this slide, because the last time we did this slide, it's 2,000. So that's great to hear. We're up to 23.
It's over 2,300 now. Awesome. And this past year, we had over 50 speakers and over 50 talks. And we had, you said, over 900 registrants.
Yeah, about 950.
Like crazy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 950. So who knows what next year brings, but it's growing by leaps and bounds. So we're starting tonight with Christmas markets, and we have Brighde, who's actually here. She wants to bring herself on just to answer any questions, but we did record it because Brittany, who is my assistant, lives in Germany. So it would probably be about 1 a.m, right about now. And Brighde's in Canada, so she's a couple hours earlier. So do you want to introduce Brighde? And then
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So Brighde has spent her formative years in the UK and Australia before her desire for travel took over. The next 5 years were spent leading group tours for an Australian company around Southeast Asia, France, and Morocco. She met fellow tour guide Seb in Marrakesh and fell madly in love. This was written by Seb. And a couple of years later, they discovered veganism together. She became passionate about promoting the vegan message as an activist. Widely traveled for both work and fun, one of her most important jobs at World Vegan Travel is ensuring the vegan food on our trips is second to none. She also makes sure everyone has enough treats throughout the day and organizes the infamous trivia sessions during our final day's parties.
And Brittany, Lucero is a traveler, and a travel fanatic is more accurate. She, at least before COVID anyway, she used to travel. Actually, she's still traveling a lot now. She just came back from Scotland. Travel has been at the heart of her motivation in life, so much so that her and her partner packed up and moved to Chicago, to Central Europe, Berlin, Germany in 2019 in order to travel more and more efficiently and eco-friendly and cost effectively. So after graduating with a degree in PR and advertising, she contacted me and joined my company. She interned with me for a while, and she lived in my house for a while. She's become my adopted daughter. She did all her, she was my media, event, and PR assistant intern. And then shortly after, she started traveling internationally by saving money from nanny and restaurant jobs. She was able to backpack in Europe alone. Well, that's why we called her. I don't know if you guys ever followed my Facebook business page, but we called her Backpack Brittany. And eventually traveled to her favorite countries. So far, Thailand and Japan are her favorite countries. She's also a whiskey enthusiast. I can't talk tonight. And she has visited distilleries and experienced whiskey tastings all over the globe. She even worked for a local organic whiskey distillery in Chicago. And eventually she'd like to journey to Scotland, which she already did. So this is an old one, and on a proper whiskey tour.
Awesome. Let's start this. We're going to start this session.
Great. There we go. I'm so glad and happy to see Brittany. I haven't seen you in so long, and I'm of course happy to see Brighde. We chat all the time, but I just want to dig in right now and get started on the Christmas market. So tell me, gals, what are Christmas markets?
Go ahead, Britt.
We're both just going to jump in together at the same time. Yeah, I mean, there's street markets that take place during the Advent weeks in November, December. And they started in Germany, and they go pretty much for the entire month of December, and they start pretty abruptly. They stop pretty abruptly. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. So usually these markets take place in the main squares of a European town, usually, just like my background right here. And they put up these really cute little stalls that usually they're made out of wood, then nicely lit, and lots of little fairy lights and things like that. And usually these are rented by local vendors, craftspeople, and they will have that stall for the period of the Christmas markets. And yeah, it's a really great place to do some Christmas gift shopping and to just sort of enjoy the atmosphere that these Christmas markets have. And yeah, it just really creates like a very nice atmosphere in the town, village, or city in that time.
You know what? I love shopping. I'm going to have to, Britt, I'm coming. I'm going to come stay.
For those of you who don't know, I live in Berlin, Germany, so perfect, right at the heart of the Christmas market scene.
Now, you did mention that they originated in Germany, but can you tell us where some of these Christmas markets are located?
Yeah, so they, I think the original Christmas market is actually in Vienna, and then eventually it was Germany's the country that took over in popularity. But you can now find Christmas markets in a lot of different countries and across the world, Budapest, Portugal, Italy, France, Switzerland, to name a few. In Berlin alone, just to give you perspective on how many Christmas markets there are where I live, there are 80 in the city of Berlin, and there are, I think, 2,500 across Germany. So there are a lot of Christmas markets all over this country and city.
Lots of shopping.
Lots of shopping.
Yeah, and if my understanding of this is well, like in along hundreds of years ago, the winter period was extremely long and kind of miserable in many, many ways. So just like in many countries, many cultures, they decided to create some sort of festival in the middle of the winter to just bring a little bit of cheer to this otherwise dull and cold time, to get people a little bit excited, to celebrate the start of Advent. And these have obviously grown in size. There are more and more of them. And even though sort of Central Europe and Germany and Eastern France is where the sort of the most traditional markets have been, in that they have been running for a very long time. A lot of other countries and towns and places have started having their own Christmas markets, because it's great for tourism. And it's just such a lovely thing to do. So you can find Christmas markets throughout Europe in so many places, from really, really big cities to really small towns. It's really fun.
So tell me what the atmosphere is like. Is it like a party kind of thing, or is it like serious shopping, or a little bit of both?
Donna's hoping for shopping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for shopping.
It's definitely a place where people go to shop for Christmas gifts in particular. So it's really, it's usually open early in the afternoon, as well as like weekends, weekdays, depending on the market. And it runs through like late night, and then it becomes more of the party scene once it's late night, at least in Berlin, where people are, drinking their mulled wine, their Glühwein is what it's called here, and hot beer, and still shopping. So
spending more money than they should be, right?
Yeah, I say budgets. There's also, they sell a lot of like Christmas ornaments and things like that. So people go with, I think, their children, maybe more during the day. But it's also very much like, even during the day, an adult scene, because there's so much shopping and it's just such a fun environment, and you just go with your friends. You can go multiple times. I go to multiple Christmas markets every season, with different friends, sometimes the same friends. It's just like a thing you do. There's like ice skating. It's just really social, and there's a lot of different food you can try. We can talk about that a little bit later, but yeah, the atmosphere is very lively and a lot of good time.
There's often a lot of music as well, and there'll be choirs, for example, or these little performances as well. Lots of music as you're walking through the Christmas markets. It really does just feel lovely. And the fact that it gets dark so early, often it will be getting dark at, like, depending on where you are, at like 4 p.m. or something. And these short days, if you're living there, it can feel a little bit sort of miserable. You only have a few hours of daylight, but these Christmas markets really, the dark evenings, the early evenings, they really add to the atmosphere, and it just feels so wonderful. And it's also, usually in Central Europe, it's not that cold compared with like Toronto or the East Coast, for example. So it's never going to be minus 30 degrees Celsius, whatever that is in Fahrenheit, like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, something like that. So it's not uncomfortable as you're walking around. You're not going to freeze as you walk around.
Now, I think I know the answer to this, but who would love Christmas markets? Who are they geared towards?
You go, Britt.
Okay, everyone. Who wouldn't like? I mean, maybe a Grinch would not like a Christmas market. It's just so festive, so much fun. There's something for everyone. There's something to buy for everyone. I mean, really, I don't know who wouldn't enjoy Christmas market. Anyone, any age.
It's great for families, great for everybody, really. I would say just something I'm thinking about just now, like they're quite crowded places sometimes. So if you have some mobility issues that, you might want to try to figure out a time that would be good to go. But, I will say I am not the most festive person in the world. I'm not a Grinch, but I am certainly not normally a big Christmas person, but I still love it. I love the stalls. I'm not even that much of a shopper, but I love the sights. I love the sounds. The atmosphere is really nice. The decoration, as you can see behind us in our virtual backgrounds, we've got like the Christmas trees and these beautiful lights, and the smells of the candied nuts cooking and the chestnuts. I mean, it's just lovely. And often there's fewer cars as well because they'll be pedestrianizing certain areas. So I just love it too, even though I am a bit of a Grinch.
I'm
also
right there with you.
they're also not very, I mean, they can get crowded also depending on which market, but a lot of, in Berlin, at least I can speak from experience that there are so many that they're not so crowded and you're not standing in line for everything. And I think this is something you don't know to expect, like you don't know what you don't know, but in these markets, like even if there's like a long line if there's a popularity over like one type of food, the longest line we'll get isn't like outrageous. And I think like, at least in the US, like you're waiting in line at festivals all the time for everything. And it's just one of those things that you don't know to not expect, but it's really pleasant. So if anything makes you impatient, sometimes it's just waiting in a line and you don't have, that all over the place. So it's really nice.
That's really good to hear, because just to interject as the Canadian of the group, and Brighde, if you've been to Toronto for the Christmas market, sometimes the lineup for the Christmas market in Toronto can be up to 2 hours just to get inside. And then you end up crammed into a space. It's an outdoor space with beautiful stalls, but it's just like trying to get anywhere is sometimes a challenge. So I may have to consider the European markets if there's no huge lineups, because I steer clear of the Toronto one just because of that.
So I do have a question. What kinds of things do they sell? And what can you buy? Are there any local artisan crafts? And I think Jason mentioned stalls. Is it all stalls, or is it stores, or how is it set up? That's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Britt. Go ahead.
Still on the shopping. We're still talking about shopping with Donna. Just kidding. So yeah, great place for souvenirs. Like I said, a lot of handmade souvenirs, but there are different stalls, but there's also like rides sometimes. There are like other activities like ice skating. There's like some really showy ice skating. I remember watching people ice skate and just backward skating and flipping and doing all this stuff at a casual market. So people really like show off. These are like really great places to people watch. But back to like, birthday gifts, Christmas decorations in general. What else can you buy there? Pretty much it's sweets, everything. There's food.
Is it mostly local artisans, or is it?
Yeah, there's actually a vegan Christmas market in Berlin. I'm not sure how many there are, but I know there's one famous one, and they are specifically targeted like local artisans, sustainable, local craftsmen, sustainable decorations. They don't do any plastic. Cool. They use they use like non-disposable like plates and things. So I think, but generally speaking, like you'll find like local artisans in general, like even with making scarves or hats and also goods.
Sorry, go ahead, Brighde.
No, go
ahead. I
was
just going to ask your next question. Do you have to pay to get into any of the Christmas markets?
That is a great question. I was in Vancouver. I live close to Vancouver, and last December, and we discovered there was a Vancouver Christmas market. So, we like Christmas markets. We went, and I was shocked to my core when I realized that I had to pay $18 to get in. And for that, I would get the opportunity to spend more money on some food there. And it was kind of cutely set up, but it wasn't the same as a European Christmas market. So in Europe, I have never experienced that you have to pay to get into a Christmas market at all. You are supporting everything by going and purchasing things. Obviously, the vendors who are there, they have to pay for these little stalls that are here, and of course that supports all of the Christmas decoration and any performers that are there, and all of the logistics and the safety and security and all of that kind of stuff. So no, you don't need to worry about that at all. You can just rock on up to any Christmas market and spend 5 minutes there if you want to, or a couple of hours there, up to you.
There was one Christmas market. They're all free. Like she said, you just walk in, they're very open, and there's multiple entrances. But there was one Christmas market I went to in Berlin, and I was also shocked at the price of entry, which was €1.
Oh,
No. But not to say, I was shocked when, you also told me about the €18, but that was the most I've ever paid. And it was probably the most elaborate Christmas market in Berlin. So the most popular. But it was €1, so not really breaking the bank.
Yeah.
I just did a quick.
Go to them all the time.
I just did a quick search on the Toronto Christmas market. It was closed for a couple of years for COVID. Last year they charged $8 per person, but it included a 3-month trial to Amazon Music. So 6 or 1/2 dozen. But like you said, Brighde, I have sometimes a problem where you're asking me to go into a place. I mean, if there's lots of entertainment, and that's the thing about the Toronto Christmas market, is they do try and make it seem, it looks very similar, Brittany, to the background that you have, just with the big tree, lots of lights, you get the experience. But I too, Brighde, am I'm going in to spend money, and we have to pay to get in there. That just confuses me. So I'm glad to hear that it's free.
And I'm used to free museums in general, free things, because I live in Washington, D.C. We don't pay for that stuff. The taxes do. But anyway.
You're gloating.
So you did say that it usually lasts from November, and they're there every day. This is a twofold question. So what times are they typically open from, and how long would you spend at a Christmas market?
Okay, so I think traditionally they would start at the start of Advent, and they would usually finish around the 23rd or the 24th, or sometimes in the New Year's. Everyone is a little bit different, and there's usually a website. This is usually a big event in the town's calendar. So usually there will be a website associated with it, and you can usually find a ton of information on the website. For example, Strasbourg, which is in France, which I'm very, very familiar with. I think they go through to New Year, and they'll have a big website presence for this event to give you all of the information, because they want to make it as easy as possible for people to go there, because it's such an important thing for the tourism industry, for the sellers, and for the town to be doing a great job at welcoming people to the Christmas markets, whether you're local or whether you are coming from further afield.
Yeah. And as far as time goes, I mean, some markets would only be open certain hours of the day, and some of them are just night markets. So it really does depend. Like she said, check out the website, and it will vary, but generally they're keeping early in the day to nighttime till midnight, sometimes past.
And there's actually, I would notice that there was the Times in the UK actually had a running list of the top markets. I think it was the top 25 or top 30, and they've been actually updating the dates as they're getting announced. There's still some that are to be confirmed. So
Right.
you might not have those dates right away, but generally speaking, from my understanding, is they kind of operate on sort of a cyclical calendar so that everybody knows what's happening. Now, on that point, and just to round out that question about times and when it's open, are there any days that, like, if you went on, you said some of them close the 23rd, 24th, but the ones that continue on through the new year, are there any dates during the holidays that they might be closed? Like, do they all shut down on Christmas Day? Is there one that's open on specific holidays, or are there dates that people should avoid?
I can't speak to that very much, but I would say that if you can avoid going at the weekends, that would probably be better, because that's when people that live in that place, that they are going there, and because it's a weekend, and maybe go during the weekday before people finish work, in the late afternoon. That would probably be a better time to go to avoid the crowds. But in terms of specific dates of markets being closed, I can't really speak to that. Can you, Britt?
No, I'm thinking I'm not sure either. I'm not confident, but I would
I'm
think
sorry
that
to
they're
throw you
closed.
both.
Yeah, no, but
Right.
but in Germany, I mean, in Berlin, on Sundays, everything is closed. I don't think that means the Christmas markets are closed. I'm pretty sure they stay open, but what would make, so this leads me to believe that probably Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, they might be closed.
Yeah, and
Because
I only ask because places like, if you go to Dominican Republic, they have Holy Week, and Holy
Yeah.
Week is a week where you can get really good deals to go, but everything is closed. You can't do any water activities. You can't really access anything. So I was just wondering if, did they all shut down and go, everybody's going to take Christmas off. So if you go at Christmas, it's not as spectacular because there's not as much happening. Was sort of where I was going with that question.
Yeah.
Sure. I think that's a really great question, and another reason to talk with a travel advisor or to check the websites of these places, because if you're only in Colmar in France for a couple of nights, and that happened to coincide with the days that it was closed, then you might want to reconsider where you're going. You might want to go to Strasbourg instead. So
Strasbourg
definitely
is good. Yeah, that's a great.
Strasbourg is the big one.
And
Yeah,
thank you
a
for that
big one in
shout out to the
France.
travel advisor. Like Brighde said, Donna and I, this is the sort of stuff we do when our clients reach out and they express interest in a particular spot, or they have a market that they want to go to. We can kind of find out all that information for you before you book your trip, and make sure that you know the ins and the outs, so you're not going to end up standing in a square with an unlit tree and not able to enjoy the market as you'd hoped. So
Yes,
go
and
for it,
on
Donna.
that note, I will tell you, as an Ireland specialist, Ireland does shut down Christmas time, so Christmas week. So it's not a good time to go to Ireland. You could go beforehand, but I would not go that week because everything shuts down.
It's really important. It's something that people often don't think about. They just think, hey, it's happening, it's going to be great. I mean, I went to 4 or 5 years ago, I went to Halloween to the UK, and we were thinking it was going to be this big bash where we went, and we just ended up at the wrong place. And I was like, oh, I didn't actually consider this, that they might just not. So ever since that point, I think, okay, what is open, what is closed, the days that I'm going to be there, so I'm not stuck, as we said. Now, we did mention that there are a ton of different markets. Are the markets similar? How are they different?
Well, I mean, each place will have its own kind of vibe, but I really want to mention how, obviously in the big cities there will be huge markets, but that doesn't mean that's the only place that there are markets. Smaller towns, even very small towns, can have markets every single day. I'm thinking particularly about Kaisersburg, which is this cute little Alsatian town. I would say that it probably has, oh my goodness, population of like maybe 8,000 or something like that. I'm guessing there, and they have a really beautiful little Christmas market there. So you can find them anywhere, even in towns which aren't particularly touristy. For example, Ensisheim, which is the place where we stay, which isn't it's a beautiful little town, but there's not much to attract tourists. But they even have a Christmas market there for the local people. It might not be every day, and it will probably be quite small, but it's still there. So you can see Christmas markets in lots of different places.
Great.
Do you have anything to add, Britt?
Yeah, as far as like the vibe and what changes, there's I'd say like some consistency with what you can expect. So you generally can expect the roasted, chestnuts and the roasted, the food elements. It might be slightly different, but you can expect the same kind of variables. And the differences would be some of the activities. So like the ice skating rink isn't at all the Christmas markets, or there's maybe the music varies. Like some places will have music, live music, some, will have other performances, things like that. So I say the activities also vary.
Thank you.
So you did say that some of these end like before Christmas and some of them go through the New Year. So are there particular ones that stay on longer, or, and when do they usually end? Most of them, anyway.
I would say, because there's so many, like as Britt said, there's like 2,500 in Germany alone. They're not gonna all follow the same rules.
Right.
So I would say, check the website for the town that you're going to. Contact the tourist office there perhaps and ask them if it's not you can't see it easily on the website, and they will have very clear dates of when it's gonna finish up. Because every place will be different depending on a bazillion things.
Yeah, I'd say generally right after Christmas they will abruptly shut down, but some are like open a week, the first week of the new year, and then like once right after New Year's, and then abruptly shut down. But it's pretty, at least in my experience in Berlin, it's like overnight, it feels like. So once the season's over, maybe it's part of the culture. It's very
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
I wonder if the ones that stay on have sales.
Don't know.
Could be
Donna, you're out for the deals.
Yeah,
I'm out for the deals.
I think as well, some of them close like in Epiphany, I think on the 6th of January as well.
I've read that, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's officially when the Christmas period is end, I guess, according to the religious connections. So maybe sometimes they close on the 12th day of Christmas, and I think maybe in more Orthodox countries as well, like where they celebrate Christmas on the 6th of January, you might find all of the Christmassy stuff is still in full force until the 6th.
Now, this is a question that's, again, one that's just popped up while we've been chatting. So the stalls that are there, are these generally places where you might be able to go find these people in the town once the market is done, or are these vendors that are maybe coming to the town and then you won't be able to see them until they come back next year? Do you know that?
I have often asked vendors for a business card, and they've given me one.
Yep.
So they obviously have like a little business online, and this is their opportunity, just like any markets.
Great.
They've got an in-person crowd with lots of people going past. So if you were to see a product that you really, really liked, or you're not ready to buy it quite yet, I'm sure you would be able to reach out to them and buy it from them directly and get it shipped over to you. That's my understanding of how it works.
I was just
Oh, sorry, Jason. I wasn't sure if you were going to say.
No,
something.
I was just gonna say that I'm thinking more like, you try something and you really like it and you don't know if you're gonna be back. Is there the possibility of finding more, or something like you said, maybe a bigger purchase that you don't want to make while you're traveling, but you'd like to connect after the event?
Yeah, and there's also, I know for sure, I'm just thinking about some purchases I made in the past, and there are like specific brands. Like there's like a local distillery in Berlin, and they have like free tastings at the market, and they're like a local brand, and they sell their bottles in the store, and they have their own, place where you can go. So I know that there are, and also there are also markets that are targeted for local vendors. So I'm sure those vendors are representing like their online businesses and their little, boutiques and things like that. So,
Nice.
and I'm sure there's a mix of both. Mhm.
Well, on the topic, you brought up food there a bit. Well, let's chat about vegan eats. I think what everybody wants to chat about is what is accidentally vegan at the Christmas markets. Are there stalls for vegans? What has your experience been, and what could people expect if they're vegan themselves?
Do you like to start, Britt?
No, you can start.
It's a loaded question.
Well, there's a lot to say. I mean, generally speaking, there's a lot of non-vegan sausages served in these places. I can only really speak to markets in Eastern France, because I've visited many of those many times, and a few in other areas of Europe. But something that definitely seems to play out in all of the places that I've gone to are chestnuts, roasted chestnuts. This is obviously super fun. They also have these sugared and spiced almonds, which is really nice too. Stollen is a very interesting would you call it, bread, I guess, and very often that is accidentally vegan as well. So stollen is like a bread with dried fruit inside, and very often there'll be like a marzipan paste running through the middle of it. I'm a marzipan lover. I absolutely love marzipan, and if I see a vegan stollen, then I am definitely scooping that up because it is incredible. Very often they'll have fried potatoes. I'm not talking French fries, I'm talking like fried potatoes as well. And pretzels usually are vegan as well. Sometimes they might use a bit of an egg wash or a dairy wash on the top, but you can usually ask, and I think most of the time they're accidentally vegan. Have you found any accidentally vegan eats that are typical of the Christmas markets, Britt?
Yeah, I'd say definitely not just the sugar almonds, but just sugared and spiced nuts across the nut spectrum. They're like every type of peanut or sunflower seed or anything with a variety. So it's just, they'll have these booths that are just any type of nut made any sort of way. But also to add to that, with like at least the vegan Christmas market, they also have langos, which is like a Hungarian street food, like a deep fried bread with, they have like a vegan version of this, and everything they sell is all vegan, like the food at this market. And what else? I mean, I think we're gonna probably talk about what to drink soon. But when I think food, I think drink. So we'll move on to the drinks, maybe.
Well, speaking
go
of
ahead.
that, yeah,
That's the
no,
next
speaking
one.
of that, so there's got to be some fun vegan drinks, right? So you talked a little bit about it. Can you go into more detail about it?
Glühwein is like the number one drink to drink. If you're gonna drink anything at a Christmas market, drink Glühwein. There's also
What is Glühwein exactly?
it's mulled wine.
Oh, okay, so it's a
yeah,
mulled wine.
kind of like sangria. It's there's also a version, it's like Kinder Vine or something. It's like a child's Glühwein, which they have a lot of this in Germany in general. Like they have like children cappuccinos and stuff. It's very, Europeans are really good at including children in like their future adult decisions. But yeah, so I'd say there's that. There's hot beer. There's a lot of different beer options or alcohol options that are very festive, but they're more like vegetarian. They're not. I'd say like for the vegan sense, it's more like the mulled wine and the beer and the liquor. There's also something called a Jaeger tea. It's rum and black tea.
Oh, wow.
It's a big drink. I mean, once at a certain hour, I mean, people really pace themselves, but it's still very, there's a lot centered on alcohol, but it's not like what you would see in the US where people are just, going really crazy, taking shots and getting like, really wild and loud. It's very like sophisticated, fun for adults.
What a nice way to put it.
No, it's going crazy, but it's really, yeah, it's
Now,
mature.
the question that pops into my mind about the mulled wine is often what we hear about, and often where people don't understand the wine industry as vegan, is that sometimes the finishing of the wine can be a non-vegan process. Is there any worry with those mulled wines that they have that? Have you had to ask when you're ordering the wine if they have ingredients for it so that you are sure that it's vegan?
Mm. For me, I don't worry too much about the filtering ingredients of wine. And if that is you, if you are worried about the wine, then I think you probably should just skip it, because the
Okay.
wine that they use is just like a table wine, a house wine made like a blend of a bazillion different grapes from a bazillion different places, and there's no way that vendor is going to be able to answer that question for you, especially when they've got a queue of lots of people behind them. So, you know, if that type of thing is important to you, then I think it might be a little bit of a challenge, unless of course you go to any vegan Christmas markets, which we can talk about a little bit as well. And yeah, so it's called Glühwein in Germany, but it's called Vin chaud in the French Christmas markets, hot wine. And I've been in Luxembourg and actually in a few different places, but in Luxembourg they will add like a liqueur as well to the wine as well, so you can choose from a multiple different kinds of liqueurs. So my favorite is amaretto. I love almond flavors, so they'll put a little dash of amaretto in there. And something that I think is really, really cool is, I'm sure they do it in Germany too, is that when you buy your wine, they're not going to give it to you in a little plastic cup. They'll usually have like a mug that's been specially created for that Christmas market, and you'll pay maybe like a €3 deposit for that mug. So let's say the wine costs €3 and then it's a €3 deposit, so you'll pay €6, and then you can you could be walking around the market, or you can just, it's usually standing room. There's no usually sitting areas in the Christmas markets, even around these bars, I guess, for want of a better word. And then when you're done, you don't even have to take it back to the place that you're going to, the place that you bought the wine from. You can actually drop it back at any old place and they'll give you your €3 back. So, you know, that's kind of a fun, nice way. And of course, if you want to keep the little mug I've got some photos that we can show you later on, and you can kind of get a sense as to what they're like, and then you've got a nice little souvenir if you want. If you don't
Or
want
a
it,
Christmas gift for somebody at home.
Oh
That's
yeah.
right.
Oh yeah.
So bring an extra bag is what you're saying, for Donna's shopping and for all of your beautiful mugs.
Yes, and they also have hot cider too.
That's my
something
favorite.
I've also noticed.
Love that stuff.
Yeah.
So how can somebody experience the market?
Okay. Do you want to go, Britt?
Yeah, I mean, because I experience them so often, it's really no preparation at all. I just walk through and, you know, if I am feeling hungry, I can just grab some food, or if I'd like a drink, or if I'd like to shop. It's really not a stressful experience. So you really can just go in very casually and have a great experience without really putting in a lot of planned effort.
And Brighde, I think you have a tour.
Yeah. So I can talk about that in a minute, but basically, sure, like I enjoy the Christmas markets as an add-on, or as a way to make traveling to a European place during the cold time more enjoyable. So what does that mean? So for example, if I'm going to Alsace, for example, and I'm going to go and do all of the same things that I would do in Alsace at any time of year. I would go and see the cute towns. I would go and walk around, go to museums, do all of those things. But also, you know, I would break it up with like visits to the markets, or I might go to a particular market because I think it's nice, but then, you know, I'll spend half an hour there. I don't necessarily have tons of friends to meet up with, like Britt does, who lives in Berlin, for example. And I'll be like, this is really nice. And then I'll go and have a look inside the church, or I go and do the little Rick Steves guided tour of the town, for example, the audio tour of the town, or something in my guidebook, something like that. So that's how I like to experience the market. And of course, another way to experience the market is to go on a tour that's just has Christmas markets as a big focus. And there are quite a few different companies that do that because it's so exciting. But we have a vegan Christmas market tour to Alsace that happens every couple of years or so. And you get to enjoy all of the wonderful things of Christmas markets, but also see a lot of the other cool attractions in the area too.
So Brighde, you were mentioning that you could experience it on a tour. Absolutely. I think that's a great way of doing it, because from the look of your itinerary, you're not just hitting one market, you're getting to hit different ones, and you're getting a chance to experience, quite a few different markets that probably have different vibes and different feels to them all. We were chatting before we started recording about some of the other ways that people can experience the markets. You can absolutely book a river cruise. There are river cruise companies now that offer the opportunity every single day to go to a new Christmas market. The great benefit of the river cruise is that in a lot of those cases, those excursions are already included into your experience. A company that's really great and vegan friendly is Uniworld Cruises, which has some really wonderful ships. Donna and I are able to get you some more information about river cruising. If you've never tried it before, it's quite a bit different than ocean cruising. So if you are an ocean cruising type of person, river cruises are a different experience. And I think they're a lovely experience because you get to get really close into some of these towns, and they deck themselves out for the holiday season. It's not just like the Christmas market is where all Christmas is. It's the entire town and village is overtaken with the beauty of the holiday season. So that's definitely a way that I like to encourage people to see it, especially if you love Christmas. You get a chance to go and experience a ton of different countries and a ton of different options.
Yes.
What would you recommend to clients to experience Christmas markets, Donna?
Most of my clients, I have a lot of clients that do their own thing. So they go to the markets on their own, but I have done some river cruises, just not the Christmas market stuff. So a couple of years ago, I had two people one was on a river cruise and the other one was a family that just happened to be in Strasbourg. So, what's the one in France? But they were like 2 days apart. They knew each other, but they missed each other. So, it's just two different ways of doing it. One was on a river cruise, the other one wasn't. Mm-hmm. So, it really just depends on what you want to do, what kind of vibe you want. If you want to be on your own, with the family, that's fine. If you want to be on a cruise, these cruises are a lot smaller, the river cruises. They're not like ocean cruises,
100 cabins.
maybe 100, right. So maybe 150, no more than 200 people in a cruise. So it's a totally different vibe. It's not a party vibe. So
yeah, and there's not a lot of amenities. That's the one thing I think people are shocked about with the river cruises, right, is that it's really a vessel to get you into town. You'll find that unless there's a sailing day where they've said they're going to go to 2 or 3 different destinations, a lot of the sailing happens overnight, and you wake up in the small town or the village, and then you can go off and spend the afternoon. Now, as I say, there are some on these Christmas markets where they really want to get you to as many experiences as possible. So you have a morning in one town, and then you'll move down the river and you'll hit another one in the afternoon and the evening. So you get to see markets at different times of day as well. Right. But it's definitely an experience if you want to immerse yourself in Christmas. That's sort of the way to do it. You do a tour with somebody that's going to make sure you hit all the best markets, or you go on a river cruise and you can do the same thing, but not have to necessarily be on land all the time.
Yeah, these are great points, and that's one of the really good things about doing something organized for you, because very often, like for for example, in Strasbourg, this is their peak season for travel. And very often it's hard to get accommodation at that time because this is the most busy time to go. Whereas if you're on a tour, then they've booked these experiences. So you might find that there's not a lot of accommodation, and what is available is kind of super pricey. It's peak rates. So, you know, my advice would be to book ahead of time, maybe book outside the main cities and use public transportation, or maybe you'll have to hire a car. If you wanted to go to, in Eastern France, for example, if you wanted to go and see these Christmas markets and experience the ones in the smaller cute towns, then, you know, having a car would be advisable. Even, you know, you could probably work out buses between different places, but I think the connections would probably be quite challenging to work out. It's not impossible, but certainly doable. So that would be my advice for people that were looking to travel by themselves.
This is kind of the reason why we're doing this event, Christmas in July. We've been joking with everybody, the weather's way too nice, way too hot to be thinking about it. But the reality is, this is the busiest time of year. No matter where you are traveling, Christmas is the busiest time. You should be booking those as soon as possible. And if you're not sure, reach out to your travel advisor. Make sure that they know what you're thinking about, because we're seeing the Christmas offers come out right now. There's a real push for those. And there are some companies that are starting to think about the 2023. So maybe it's not feasible for this year, but we've said it here. If we've got a group of vegan travelers that want to do a specific tour to go and visit some Christmas markets, we can make that happen for everybody. So
Yes.
let us know in the comments while you're watching. Stay in touch with all of us, because we can start planning for future years and start putting together some of those options for you. But booking around the board, I think we'd all agree right now, travel is so up in the air and things are changing so quickly that you want to lock in the things that you want to do.
My rule of thumb has always been, even before COVID, if you don't book by Labor Day weekend in the US, I don't know what it would be in Canada, but sometime mid-September when everyone's home and they're all thinking about Christmas, if you haven't booked before that, it's going to be really difficult to get what you want at the price you want. Because things fill up. And with this COVID and everyone wanting to travel right now, it's even going to be that much more difficult. So I would suggest, yeah. So moving on, I think, Brittany, you had mentioned about finding some vegan Christmas markets.
Yeah. One in particular that's very popular, but I also live in Berlin, and Berlin is like the vegan, I don't know if it's the vegan capital of the world, but they're everywhere you eat outside of a vegan or outside of a Christmas market, you will find multiple vegan options at every place, almost every place you go here, like every restaurant, every shop. But yeah, there is one particular vegan Christmas market that's actually not far from where I live. But I don't know generally how many others there are, especially outside of Berlin, because Germany is very, you know, they're all about their bratwurst. And so I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that about vegan Christmas markets? Did you find any?
Yeah, I have been to a couple. So I remember on our first Alsace trip that we did, that it starts in Paris, that on day 2, there was a vegan Christmas market in Paris. So we actually took our travelers to it. And it wasn't quite as atmospheric as like what you see behind me. It was still very cute, very nice. But of course, there are not vegan Christmas markets everywhere. I wrote a blog post about this back in 2018 for the 2018 vegan Christmas markets. And I did a bit of a deep dive into vegan Christmas markets. And I think like the UK has quite a few.
Oh, wow.
There's one couple in France, there's a couple of in Hungary, and this was in 2018. I'm obviously, you know, they might not necessarily still be going on, but you might like to Google vegan Christmas markets in the destination that you're going to, Paris, Munich, wherever it is, and you might be lucky. And sometimes they're just like one-off events or over one weekend. Sometimes they're over a longer period of time. So, don't bank on it, but you could get lucky.
Now we were chatting, Brighde, earlier this week about Canadian vegan Christmas markets, and there are a couple. There's one in Toronto and one in Montreal, but like you said, not as atmospheric, and they only started a few years ago. 2021 and 2020, they went virtual. So it was very much a virtual marketplace, but it was supporting local businesses. You didn't really get the Christmas vibe unless you put on a hat and made your old mulled wine and clicked through everything. So I'm interested to see what it's going to be like post-COVID, but there are some options out there. And locally, I know hyper locally in Toronto, there's a community called Vegandale. And it's just a group of businesses that have kind of come together and said, we're going to operate in this little area and create a community and a space where vegan people can go. They sometimes have pop-up sort of markets. So like you said, if you're really interested in vegan markets and vegan Christmas markets, a quick search of your local area, you'll probably find a few that are popping up. And if you're traveling, again, your travel advisor or your tour operator will be able to get some more information about what's happening. And I think it's a great idea to at least go and experience these markets. And to, again, I'm big on the support of the vegan community. So anytime that we can support those sort of businesses, I think it goes a long way.
So
maybe, go ahead, Donna.
No, go ahead and finish, and then I'll ask you.
Actually, I was going to lead on to COVID
Yes.
and how that can play out. So it's been an interesting couple of years for the Christmas markets. You've been there the whole time. What's it been like in Berlin?
Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't really remember 2020. I don't know if I'm just blocking it out.
I don't think anybody does. Everyone's blocked that out.
But yeah, I could talk about last year because it was still in the thick of everything. I think was Delta out.
Yes. And the Omicron had come out by then, I think.
I think Omicron came out this spring, I think.
No, it was definitely November. I know.
It was November because it was, it was right after I went on my cruise.
I got Omicron, but I think I got it later in the season. So maybe that's why I'm thinking of it wrong. But yeah, so we talked about lines earlier, or queues, how we say it in Europe. And the only queue I really experienced that was a little annoying was to enter the markets. They're normally more accessible, but you had to wait in line. You had to show your tests. So we had free tests in Germany. You can just go to any, they're all over the place now, but they've been all over the place, but they're just a quick nose and throat swab. And sometimes it was just the nose, but it was free. And then they would send you your digital QR code. And then you would go into a line, and then basically just to prove that you weren't tested negative or positive that day. So it's usually 24-hour timeline. So you had to get those checked as well as your passports. I mean, it was all your paperwork. It was really intense because it would be your COVID passport, sorry, not your ID passport, but you would have to have a form of ID as well. So we have a COVID passport here, and it's it looks like the passport, it's yellow, and it's marked by your doctor once you've been vaccinated. They were checking to see also if you were tested either in lieu of a test, you could also prove that you've had a booster. So it's either or, and you would just kind of wait in line to get in for testing. So they're really responsible about making, I mean, the markets are outdoors, so the spreading isn't as severe as it would be indoors, but they're still very cautious, maybe for liability, to make sure that no one's spreading anything. So you did have to be tested and share. I mean, I'm sure this year, I'm not sure what to expect, but I would anticipate that this will continue because, people do generally just get sick in this winter anyway. So yeah, that was my experience. So there was a line, you had to show your paperwork.
I found as well in Europe, sometimes to get into museums and things like that, you have to show the green pass or your paperwork and stuff like that, and that can create a little bit of a bottleneck to get in. But I would say, generally speaking, it's pretty low risk COVID place because it's all outside. That would be my
Pack
thought.
your patience, pack your patience. I mean, things are opening up without any, facts, any requirements now, but you still need to pack your patience on that.
And before we wrap up, can I ask you both about the safety aspect? So you're outdoors and you're having drinks, you're having a great time. Is it a safe environment for travelers?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. Absolutely. I mean, I live in Germany, and Germany itself is like a really safe country, and even Berlin is super safe. There was, that said, several years ago, one of like the first big terrorist attacks. I don't want to like go into like a really dark, but when I did the vegan experience Christmas market video, I talked about this a little bit because there's like a memorial there, but that was one of those one-off tragedy events where someone drove into a Christmas market in Berlin. And that's the market that I went to. It's the one that is the biggest, that's closest to me. So it's actually a really beautiful Christmas market. And it's, but that was like such a one-off event. Anyway, they have like a memorial there at it was like the bombed out church is where the Christmas market takes place, but they have like a memorial there now. But I mean, nothing has happened since. And it's not really something that you think about or fear, because it is generally, knock on wood, like a really safe country and city. And in fact, I think whenever I hear any like, popping or anything, I always, because I'm from the US, I think I have like this kind of, I always feel unsafe, and it's never an unsafe environment. People always like tease me about being American because I always think, oh, something's going to come out. I don't know, someone's doing something, and it's usually just like fireworks or something fun. So it's just a really safe environment. But yeah, I think I'm super cautious just because I'm American, and I've like, grew up with also having like high media exposure and just always being so. But that's not the reality, at least like from my experience and what I know living here. There's no like, it's not like an unsafe environment by any means. Maybe some pickpocketing, but I've never had to worry about that.
So probably having a, sorry, go ahead, Brighde.
Yeah, I think just try to be a little bit aware of your surroundings. I think pickpocketing is going to be the worst thing that happens. So keep your valuables in the safe, your passport, all of those things that would be a real bummer to lose. And either keep your backpack on the front of you, or just make sure that you are making sure that you are going to avoid pickpockets coming and getting you. I mean, I've never particularly heard of pickpocket warnings for the Christmas markets, but I do think in crowds, a lot of people, it would be a place where pickpockets might like to go and check out. I mean, that's not really a safety thing. It's more of a upsetting and annoying, frustrating thing if it happens to you. I mean, usually with pickpocketing, you're not in any danger.
Yeah, I had some clients, but talking about the attacks in Strasbourg, I had clients that arrived at the Strasbourg market several days afterwards. There were two different clients, and they did have a memorial. I don't know if there is one there any longer. Again, it was a one-off kind of thing. These things, this is the reality of our world right now, but just keep on your toes, and if you see something, speak up. That's all you can do.
I've noticed in Europe as well, in a lot of the bigger markets, there'll be, I don't know what they're called, those things that you have to walk through to show that you don't have any big lumps of metal on you. Those
security checks.
And they'll do.
Yeah, the security checks.
But the actual name of the thing that you walk through, I don't know what that is. And sometimes you'll have to open your bag so that they can have a little look. That's what they did in Strasbourg after those attacks a few years back. But otherwise, it's pretty nice. It's a really nice place to go and very safe.
And I think you should just expect, I think like Donna said, we have to expect that there's going to be, pack your patience, because there's different rules in different places that you go. You could have a bag check. You might have an extra security point. There might be a test that's required. I think what I've been trying to tell clients is just go prepared with the information that you have, follow the protocols. If you don't understand what anybody's asking you to do, or if you don't feel safe, or there's something that you ask questions, people are trying to navigate these waters with all of these different attractions, and how do we keep some rules in place to keep everybody safe, but start opening up again, because I think everybody really does want to start exploring the world a little bit more. And I always tell clients, when you're leaving your country, just you have to be on guard and just be on lookout like you would at home, trying to keep yourself as safe as possible. Most places you're going to have absolutely no problem, and you're probably just going to have more mulled wine than you probably should.
Danger.
I'd love to share a couple of little photos that I have,
Sure.
if now's a good time.
Yeah, of course.
And
You should be able to
I'll just,
screen.
yep, just okay. So I'll just whiz through these quickly. I just chose a few pictures that I hope will give you a bit of a sense of what it's like. So these are there are repeat travelers that come with us on nearly every trip, and they're in Strasbourg. And as you can see, this is just a little shop here, and every single little shop in Strasbourg, in that touristy that area, they'll do these beautiful creative decorations outside. So it's kind of nice. And of course, here we have hot wine with organic red wine, so it's probably like even filtered vegan wine as well, with spices, and you can choose the different size that you want with a goblet here that you get a refund of €1. This is hot organic apple juice, which is kind of fun. This is the picture. This is just typical as it's starting to get dark. The lights come on. It just feels very, very cozy. No snow. It's not cold enough for snow there. Here's some examples of the decorations, just the streets even around the Christmas market all deck out. This is Strasbourg Cathedral. Just very beautiful. This is in a small town. Even in the small towns, they go all out with their decorations. Really nice. Yep, great for families. Christmas markets. These are a little family of travelers that come on our trips, and they're enjoying time together as a family. This happens to be a store that had vegan items.
Oh,
at one of the
I see
markets.
that vegan. I see that word vegan, and I
Yes.
just light right
Oh, yeah.
up.
Yes, exactly. So, often hot chocolate is not vegan, but here we are. These are some different examples of the little mugs that you can get. This is in Nuremberg. I can't remember where this place was. I'm sorry, but
Oh, I
this
would
is in
never return.
Geneva.
I would never return the mugs. They look. I thought they were just going to be like regular sort of like mugs, but no.
It depends, but these ones
Yeah,
are all super, super
very
festive.
cute.
And this one is in Geneva, this Christmas market. And I mean, they were just these different kind of, what would you call it, fire pit things? I don't know, but super cute, and like lights everywhere. Now, this is a really interesting one. In southern Germany, we went to quite a few different Christmas markets, and there was this vegan stall there on one of the markets. And then we were super excited. We bought a ton of these products. They had vegan stollen. They had a lot of the vegan Christmas breads and things like that. So this was super, super fun. And it turns out that this company actually has these vegan market stalls in a lot of those Munich, a lot of those southern German, Bavarian Christmas markets. So that was kind of fun. And, this is kind of cute. Again, another example of this little market stall that just happened to have vegan items. And as you can see, we're super excited about that.
I look at Colleen's face.
Yes,
Yeah.
super excited. We got the chestnuts and eating chestnuts. This is in Nuremberg. So super fun, beautiful decorations. We went to the Christmas markets with my mother-in-law and the father-in-law. This is in Eggersheim, which is a cute little town in eastern France. So their Christmas market mug is a little bit different, but you can keep it as well if you want to. I think this is in Geneva as well. And yeah, so they're just a few photos. Maybe it gives you a bit of a sense as to what it's actually like there.
That's awesome. If you happen to be in Canada, I can say a lot of those photos, Brighde, reminded me of what it looks like in Quebec City and Montreal when you go during the holiday season. So if you can't get across the pond this year, definitely consider, looking at those two towns for possible options. We talked previous sessions about the Winter Village and the Carnival that Quebec has. So those are some more localized opportunities for you as well if you want the Christmas vibe. And I think they've actually got in Quebec City still a 12 months, it's open year round, and it is a Christmas shop. And they sell everything Christmas. You can get ornaments, you can get gifts, anything Christmas, 12 months a year. So great spot.
Fantastic. Are we coming up to time?
I think we're
we
coming
must
up
be.
to time.
We are. This has been great. So let's just see. Brighde, how can they reach you?
Sure thing. Well, you can go to worldvegantravel.com. We have a podcast as well, and people can actually join the be notified first of our Alsace 2023 trip if Christmas markets seem interesting for you. Maybe I'll pop the link there so that we can pop it in the chat perhaps, so people can be signed up to notified first. So that's basically how you can learn more about the trips that we have, including our Christmas trips.
Or you can contact Jason and I, but what are your socials?
Everything at worldvegantravel.com.
Okay. And Brittany, what are your socials?
You can find me on Facebook. Probably I still use Messenger, but I'm not on Instagram anymore, so I'm not as connected.
You're not?
But you can find me helping support Donna during like newsletters and things like that. So if you ever really want to get in contact with me, you can just contact Donna and grab my email.
This has been wonderful. Thank you. I really appreciate it, ladies.
This is fun.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Woohoo!
That was a great session.
It was a great session.
Let me share my screen here again.
Okay, up next we got somebody I'm really excited about, and also he's been very generous about giving away something for everyone who's here. So you can email me or message me on Facebook, and I will get that over to you. But Todd Sinclair, if you don't know who he is, you need to follow him. He's also known as London Todd, and he is the author of 4 books, and is also a vegan activist, a speaker, writer, podcaster, and a travel expert. He did a series of books called the Rebel Vegan
Life.
I get that right? Rebel Vegan Life. He also did one of the books was on vegan travel. So, and you can get those books on Amazon. He also is or was a tour operator for a major tour company, G Adventures. And there was another company, European company that I don't remember the name is, but he'll talk about that. He's the founder of the Rebel Vegan Life movement. His Rebel Vegan Life books are The Rebel Vegan Life, A Radical Take on Veganism for a Brave New World, Rebel Vegan Life, A Plant-Based Nutrition and Beginner's Guide, and Rebel Vegan Travel Guide, Veganism on the Go. Those are all his essential guides for creating a vital vegan life in a post-pandemic world. And you can follow him on Facebook and Instagram at Rebel Vegan Life. After this talk, he is giving us a recipe book for us, right?
He's pulled out some of his favorite recipes from his book.
Yes. So again, if you want them, this is our gift to you, or his gift to you. And with that, Jason, I'm going to let you go.
Perfect.
I'm so excited. I finally get to meet you in person, sort of. We met through the Vegan Business Tribe, and that was eons ago, it seems like, and we've been trying to catch up ever since then, and we finally are doing this video today.
Yes,
traveling.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic to meet you finally, because you've always been an inspiration, and great to meet you, Jason. And thank you for inviting me here for Christmas in July. I don't know if you see my picture behind me. This is taken today here in the heat wave of London. I was walking down the street through Mayfair in central London, thinking about, oh, I'm going to meet you finally, and hopefully inspire and get to know people. And there was a Christmas tree sitting on the corner where I had to turn into my street. I couldn't believe it. I thought, what a great omen. I picked it up and took a quick photo. So that's literally taken here in heat wave London. So Christmas in July has happened here as well. And yes, I'm really pleased to be here. Don't know if you want me to introduce a little bit about me and my vegan travel journey.
Great. We'd love to know a bit more about you, Todd, and introduce yourself to our community.
Great. Well, hi everybody. I'm London Todd on most of the socials. Rebel Vegan is kind of my brand, and my travel guide. I have a long history of travel. I grew up in a place called Prince Edward Island in Eastern Canada, so I knew I had to work hard to get out into the world and to see the world, and I was always curious. So I studied history, and off I went. And I moved to London many years ago, and I've lived in Australia, and I've lived in Guatemala, and basically worked for all these travel companies. So I grew up on a farm, and that's the most amazing thing I think there, and part of my journey is I grew up on the other end of the kind of spectrum here. I grew up on a big working dairy farm, and everything was very normalized to me. And it wasn't until I was really writing my books and really after I became a vegan that it all kind of came back, and I remembered the sounds and the noises and recognized it for what it was. But so I grew up in this very isolated kind of farming background, and I went out into the world just always wanting to travel. So I built a life around it, and I've worked for various travel companies, some big ones like Toucan Travel, G Adventures, used to be called GAP or GAP.
Right. They're a good company. They're a great company.
Yeah, it is a great company. We've talked about that, how they've got a new animal policy where they no longer support or promote or have any animal tourism on any of their itineraries around the world. So that was a breakthrough a few years ago. And I think you were part of that, Donna, and kind of, chasing that up and fighting for that.
I'm annoying that way.
Yeah, I'm really, really pleased you got there. So yes, I worked for these big companies, and again, my head was in the sand. I supported and I curated all these amazing culinary destinations, but it was never vegan. I always shied away from it. And then I got ill, very ill, about 6.5 years ago with extreme food poisoning, and I had to come off the road for the first time ever. I'm never sick. I've got a pretty strong constitution, and there I was, deathly sick. I just never been that sick. And I was in northern Vietnam, and I knew a friend of mine who used to do tours with me and the countryside, and we visited a monastery. He took me out to this monastery that I knew all the monks, and they literally nurtured me back on a fully vegan, plant-based diet, and told me a bit of the spiritual side of how important it was not to have this, dead animals in you, and not to be consuming fear and death. And it really stuck, and it was life-changing for me. And I had about 1.5 weeks rest and recovery with these amazing monks who changed my life. And I went back out on the road, a changed person. And again, to me, my default, I was living out of a suitcase. So it wasn't like I was in my little, my cozy, safe environment where I could go down to my local grocery store and go down the plant-based aisle or the vegetarian aisle and find all these things. I was literally back out there in the streets of Vietnam, and I think I flew to Laos the next day or a couple of days later, and I had to find and source vegan food. Wow. And I guess I was shocked. At first I was really scared, but would I be able to do this? But not only did I do it, but it was really life affirming, because I felt like I was doing it. I was connecting to people on a deeper level. They were curious. We talked about my beliefs and my ethics. I connected and built stronger relationships around this. And of course I changed and found incredible restaurants who let me go in and veganize places. I remember walking down the street once, and this guy came running out, so excited to see me, hadn't seen me in months. Come on in, here's your favorite dish. And of course it was my favorite dish pre-vegan. And I had to quickly explain, no, sorry, I've had this life-changing moment and realization, and they quickly veganized that dish for me and put it on the menu.
That's
And I
awesome
remember
when
them
that
doing that,
happens.
and me
Yeah.
going, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
And I kept traveling and really doing this deep dive. So I came to veganism for my health, but obviously then all my background came flooding back, and I remembered those sounds and noises of growing up on a farm, and that kind of normalized, that quite violent system that I was a part of. That and I questioned it all, and I started reading and researching, and it really became one of my passions. So travel and veganism together are really what really inspires me. And I think they're both very similar. To me, they're connected. And I think people sometimes are surprised with that. But if you think veganism and travel both pushes you outside your element, outside your comfort zone, makes you rethink the world, and makes you, value. They have similar values around community and sustainability, values around compassion and justice. So to me, veganism and travel go hand in hand. And I feel quite passionately that veganism is the future of travel. I think we have to change travel. And I think COVID really advanced that. Mm-hmm. And then we see the world through a different lens now. And we have to travel differently. We have to connect differently. And I think vegan values are the way forward. So I feel very passionately about that. And that's what, that's when I came off the road with COVID during the lockdowns, and I wrote my Rebel Vegan Travel Guide. That was really the ethos and the driving force of writing that book, and inspired me all my travels around the world as well, meeting amazing people. So anyway, I've likely said enough. I'm dying to have a conversation with both Jason and Donna, because you both inspire me as well.
That's great. I'd love to actually, before we dive into talking about, Christmas gifts and Christmas ideas for vegans, was talking more about, I know you have 3 books. So did you write the travel guide first? Did you write your history? What is the order of those books? Because I've only started one of I've only started one of the books, and I'd love to know how you spun them together.
Well, thanks, Jason. Well, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody, first of all. Of course, I was isolated. I came back. I was in a tour when COVID really hit. I was in Myanmar. That was before things obviously have gone pear-shaped with the military takeover of Burma or Myanmar. And I had to get out of the country, and I had to fly back to the UK. And I was quite confused, to be honest, as I think we all were. Like, how long is this? What's happening? And what does this mean? And like I say, my whole life, I lived out of a suitcase, and I traveled. I was in a different country most weeks, every different week. And all of a sudden here I was back in London, March, cold, with my suitcase. I had my little travel shorts on. I had to find a place to live, and I had a friend lent me a flat, and I was, all of a sudden, my life just stopped. And I had to kind of, it was quite a sobering and shocking moment. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm locked away, I'm on my own. And again, my travels, I started writing. I remember on the Mekong River, I used to have 2 days in the Mekong River. I started writing a travel guide. I don't know, only about a year before COVID hit, and just little bits, little ideas. And I took that out. So my travel guide, my vegan travel guide, I didn't have a name for it yet, was really the first, that was the, the seed of it all. And I very much took that on and started doing research. And I had all the places that I knew were my vegan top city breaks and my vegan top countries, and even like staycations were coming out. I said, I want to explore that more. The idea of, how a staycation is so environmentally, it's environmentally friendly. It's very vegan in its own way. So I started doing all this research, writing the travel guide. But when I started writing the travel guide, I went, I think I think it needs something else as the foundation, or almost a twin or a companion. It needs kind of the why veganism matters. Because I think during COVID, we see the world through a different lens now. And I really think veganism, to me, is such an important, it's more urgent than it's ever been. Mm-hmm. COVID highlighted the health aspect and even the social aspect of the meat industry, and those horrible stories coming out from meat packing plants and slaughterhouses. And I thought environmentally, we're opening up to the environment and how important it is again. All those things to me are vegan values. So I kind of put the half-finished draft of the travel guide on the side and started phoning, like literally, and interviewing vegan nutritionists and doing research and reading the latest papers, and wrote my first book, which is Why Veganism Matters, a Radical Take on Veganism for a Brave New World. And that was kind of the first book that I published, which came out on World Vegan Day last year, November 1st. So that, even though I started with my travel guide, that was my passion. I felt it needed more. So I stepped back and did this Why Veganism Matters, which I think is a really important part. And I needed more of that as a foundation. And then after the travel guide, I wrote a nutrition guide with a nutritionist I wrote. So it became 3 books. And like I say, I wouldn't recommend it to any new author or publisher, but I couldn't stop myself, and lockdowns kept being extended. So I had all the time.
Well, do you know what? I was telling you before we started recording that I'm still in your first book, The Radical Take. And I just loved the fact that it was very much exactly like you said, here's why you become a vegan. Here are points to consider. And it was literally reaffirming every single reason as a vegan why I'm living this lifestyle now. And I was able to go in and highlight those little sections for the points when I'm talking to people who are non-vegan, and I keep forgetting the stat of, you know, any one of the stats that you shared in your book. I was like, no, this is perfect. This is like something you should be carrying just to go, hey, give me a second. I have something to show you that might change your mind. Read this little section of the book because you might not know this is what's going on. And I thought it was great. But hearing you talk about the travel guide, I was like, it makes perfect sense that you would start in the travel guide sphere. But I think this Radical Take was the perfect first book.
Yes.
I must get that one. I have the travel guide. Yeah, I have the travel guide.
That was important for me as well to do that first book, because I thought I wanted to learn, you know, more as well. And I studied the first chapter of that first book, A Radical Take on Veganism, is a historical perspective of veganism, of animal rights, of plant-based diets, going back to biblical, the Greeks, you name it. And I thought that hadn't really been done or done, you know, thoroughly. And I really wanted to do justice to that. And then I do, like you say, I have a chapter on comebacks for skeptics and things that, you know, things that are often thrown at us as vegans. And we're frustrated in the moment. I know I am. I might be at a dinner party and someone starts, you know, spouting off or challenging me. And I just wanted to concisely bring it together, you know, all those kind of silly little myths or things, and just get rid of them once and for all, and hopefully empower me and empower others and anybody who picks it up. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. It saved me getting through COVID. That was what got me through. So veganism, again, you know, being part of this community and doing that deep dive really saved me and gave me a focus and gave me something to work on and to feel passionate about.
That's great. Well, so, sorry, Donna, before we go to that, I just wanted to also add the vegan icing on the cake about that book is that anything that you have mentioned as a stat or a quote has a footnote to it. So you were able to find out the resource. And I think that's been another challenge I've personally had when I'm having discussions with non-vegans is they want tangible resources. And this book was like, nope, here you can go through. I got the electronic version so I could flip through it on my device, but you were able to go right to the source and find the information and confirm and validate what you're reading. So that was
important to me, that it was all backed up with, you know, and this was all stuff from the World Health Organization, from Oxford, from the biggest think tanks. This is peer-reviewed studies. This was not some whack scientist. You know, like I know the meat industry funds a lot of confusing, you know, purposely confusing studies that they can throw out there to kind of, you know, keep everybody in a state of confusion. I wanted everything there. I wanted backed up. Anything I said that was an important scientific
yes.
It's so important because, you know, we have to really be ready to be challenged, and we are in this world. So I'm pleased that you liked it. Thank you.
Oh, totally. It's definitely on the gift giving list for anybody who's considering vegan.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. Yeah. So that's a great present. The trilogies, the 3 books for Christmas time, right? So we can get that on Amazon. Is that correct? And you can also get it on Kindle if you're not into getting paper books.
I've got the audio as well.
You do have the audio.
Like I said, I learned a lot of new tricks over the long lockdowns. And one of
Did you
them
just
was,
say you have the audiobook too?
I have the audiobooks on Audible. Yes. Audible.
Oh, I'm
you-
gonna have
are-
to look that up because
are you reading
that's
them
my-
today?
Actually, the
David?
travel ones come. I had the first two books. Well, I have the first and the last. I have the Radical Take narrated, and I have the nutrition guide and the travel guide I'm doing right now. So I'll have that out in a couple of weeks.
Okay,
Nice.
good. That'll be in
The
time
Rebel
for my
Vegan Travel
Scotland
Guide,
trip.
and I just wanted to I wanted it out so however people want to access this information, whether it's a Kindle book, audio book, I have paperback, hardback. It's just all there. And actually, the travel guide, they're all my photos because, of course, I had this incredible life. I was so blessed to be able to travel and meet people around the world. So I went through my library and I picked out photos from South America and the Inca Trail and all through Asia, obviously, and Australia. And I just started compiling these, and it was fun to bring it together. So I
That's
hope
awesome.
everybody enjoys it.
That's awesome.
I'm enjoying it so far. I've been reading it.
Good.
I just taking my time and absorbing it. So
Well, you're coming
Yeah.
to London next week, so I'll sign your copy, Donna.
there you go. I'm gonna bring it with me.
I'll make you pack it.
I took it to Croatia, but we were so busy. I
It
had
sounds like it.
just like a time to read a couple pages here and there. So, but I'm gonna deep dive in it because we're gonna be on the bus a lot in Scotland. So I'll have
Yes,
some time
yeah.
to read. So you have I wanted to, and maybe Jason could ask this as well because I'm stuttering here, but do you have some ideas on some Christmas time, because Christmas time is a busy time for travel. So do you have any travel gift suggestions for people?
Yeah, if they're going out there and if people are traveling, yeah, like if people are going on a trip, a gift idea.
Right. Whether it's
Um,
luggage, my whole thing, I will tell you, this is my whole thing that
Yeah.
I have had issues with since the beginning of time is actual vegan luggage that doesn't have any leather on it. It used to be, they always had to have a piece of leather on it.
That's right,
I don't
yeah.
know. I'm just coming up with ideas, like if you have any suggestions for.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's interesting with luggage, isn't it? Because often there will be, it might be all made of something, and then there'll be like a little leather, or if there's that little bit where they have the address, something.
Right.
And you know what I found? Offspray, I don't know if you know them, not that I necessarily want to product endorse things. Offspray is a great company, and well, their bags now, I believe, are all vegan, or at least the ones I bought. And they're a great company. I believe you have, they're in North America as well. Offspray, and I don't know of any others. I guess I've always used Offspray because they are vegan. And they're fantastic. I mean, as far as gifts, when I travel very lightly, but something like what you just mentioned, Jason, as well. I always get a Kindle or load my Kindle up. So to get electronic books or audio books, things that are easy to carry, easy to pack. I always get little containers as well, because as a vegan, I think one of the travel vegan tips is to always, whether you're getting on a plane and they might not have the right food, or you're traveling on a long bus journey, to store. I always take little bits with me. I have these little tiny Tupperware things. I have little Ziploc bags, my little Tupperware things that fit together. When someone gave me that, I was over the moon, because I literally have a little bit of muesli. I have some nuts. I have all my things. So if we go somewhere that there just isn't any options for me, and I'll always have a banana or apple in there, but I can pack together all these little trail mixes, things like that, dates, things that will give you really good, nutrition and keep you going if you are traveling long distances. So things like that, I like things that are easy to pack.
You could totally also, one of the notes that I had written here was the vegan snack box. I know when I first became vegan, there was a lot of companies that offered little travel sizes of things that you could take with you. I liked it because I could get 3 or 6 months to be able to try new things. But like you said, you can pop them in your bag, whether you're going on a hike, you're going on a staycation weekend away, or you're traveling internationally. Chances are you're going to end up somewhere where you don't have an option. So I think every vegan is like, make sure we've got snacks in our bag ready to go.
Yes,
so for me, whenever anybody gives that as a gift, I'm like, this is awesome. I didn't have to get it. I can use it. I can eat it. I may or may not like it, but you know, generally
I love those things as well, and I've got them as well. And it's the thing. Everywhere I go, and like I say, leading tours around the world, often in hotels, even in Asia, they're very egg-based. I find, you know, the breakfast may be included, which is lovely, but often as a vegan, you end up, you know, having toast without even butter sometimes, because there's no vegan alternatives. And I would carry with me, there's a little place in my Osprey bag where I have a Tupperware, and I get really nice muesli, and I'll buy a little soy milk in the corner shop, or a long life almond milk. And I have a little bowl, a little spoon at the front of my bag, and I always in my own room, in the peace and quiet of my room, start my day very zen. And I will mix myself, and sometimes if there's local blueberries or anything, any berry you can chuck in, or some crushed seeds, and I will start with this beautiful, healthy, there's no better way to start your day. I always have that with me, always have that on the side of my bag. It's like a thin Tupperware, fits right in there beside where I fold the clothes. I have the bowl and the little spoon in another section, and I'm ready to go. And I can start my day. And after that, you know, nothing can defeat me.
So if you're on a tour with Todd, make sure you know to go to his bedroom. That's where
absolutely. Oh, I've fed many people. No, it's so true. People know me for that now. That's the danger.
My only warning to everybody is, if you're traveling internationally, make sure your snacks are not liquid,
Right.
because you still have restrictions going over borders. It was like you explained, soy milk, pick it up locally.
I pick that all locally. Yeah.
And don't get the powdered soy milk.
Oh, that's horrible. Yes. Yeah. And sometimes I found you get the soy milk and they add sugar in it automatically. And all of a sudden my bowl of muesli that I thought was so healthy, it tastes like a dessert. But anyway, these little mistakes happen. And I often say, especially, you know, you're traveling and you're doing your best, you know, to take your ethics as a vegan. There's going to be bumps in the road. And not to beat yourself up. And I'm sure you guys have these experiences once in a while.
All the time.
Something happens and you realize, oh shoot, there was something in that, or there wasn't. Well, you're doing your best. You're making a huge difference, and you just have to, you know, pick up and keep going and be as prepared as you can be.
So, how about some of these apps? I mean, a lot of the apps are free, right? But there are some apps
that's revolutionized travel, hasn't it, in the last 5 years?
Oh, with Happy Cow, yes.
Happy Cow, absolutely. Wow.
The amount of travel guides that are vegan, that are speaking to veganism, those have exploded in the last few years as well. I'm sure many were like you, Todd, where travelers were stuck at home and they're like, what do I do with all this information?
Yeah.
And thank goodness for all of us, it's all available to us now.
Yeah.
What was the one we gave away, a vegan travel guide from Lonely Planet last year? Like even bigger publications are realizing that veganism's huge. So picking up any one of those travel guides will really help any of the vegan travelers in your life.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think they're inspiring as well, because I think we all are, whether vegan or not, we're all a little anxious to go back out there into the, you know, brave new world. And you know, in my book, I wanted to put my kind of top spots just as a way, even if people are sitting at home, just to see the pictures and go, wow, okay, this is doable. This is something I can do. I can keep my, you know, ethics, and I can prepare and go out there back into the world after everything that's happened. So it's a way of almost getting people confident and motivated and focused. I think what I think a good travel guide should do, and just help people, you know, support people back out there.
And I love the fact, again, that it's something that's been written post-COVID, because I think that's another thing. I've been having a lot of conversations with clients who are relying on resources that were available pre-COVID. But the sad reality is the landscape has changed. There's a lot of new options showing up, but you want to make sure whatever app you're using, that you know when it was last updated, when a review was given, because things can really change. I've had some clients who thought vegan restaurants and spots that they really loved were still open, arrive, the place is boarded up, maybe not that they've closed, but that they've moved, or that they're doing different services. But it's so important to at least timestamp what you're reading, because it could have changed slightly.
So true, yeah. And I think that's the thing. I think COVID, you know, has changed the way we see the world in a totally new lens, and especially travel, you know. And it's going to take a long time, and I'm sure you guys have, you know, so much experience of this. I saw it shut down, and I'm, still connected with the travel world and all my colleagues. And it's, so much has changed, and it's been devastating. So many of the colleagues I had in Southeast Asia, places like Vietnam or Thailand, that was really geared around tourism. The devastation there, they've lost their livelihood, and it's only slowly coming back. I would say that, we've learned so much, and we can travel better now. We can go off the beaten track. We can, I think travel is such a great way to connect, but also to really redistribute wealth if it's done well. If you're not going to big hotels that's, owned by some foreign, multinational company, and you're trying to do local experiences and keep your money locally, that's when you're leaving a positive footprint. And I think COVID really highlighted that we need to do that more. And I hope it's changed travel for the better. It's made us be more mindful and hopefully ethical. And that's where veganism, I think, comes in. And people, totally. I've had a lot of people on my tours who aren't vegan, aren't vegetarian, but are anxious of eating meat, or going out there and don't know where the meat's coming from. So they will do plant-based. And that might also stick. And I found people go, wow, this is actually really good. The flavors, and they get swept away with it. So travel is just a way of challenging yourself, opening yourself up to new experiences. And plant-based travel is, I think, the way forward. I've seen it, it's changed my life. And talking about apps, my favorite app?
Yeah.
Vegan Passport. Have you guys heard of that?
Yes. They've been around for years. I used to have their
years.
cards.
And I used to do that before I even knew of this app. I used to, for my passengers, my clients, and myself, in each language of each country, I would write, I am vegan, I cannot eat, and I would list, meat, cheeses, this, that, honey, boom, milk, dairy, and I would put it in like the Thai script, or I'd put it in the local language, and I would cut them out, and I would cut these little cards, and I'd put them in my wallet, and I'd hand them out to everybody in my group who wanted to be vegan. And they worked a dream. And then I realized there was a website and an app that did it for me, and I didn't need to do this. So that saved me that job, but it was kind of fun writing it out as well.
They actually have been doing this for at least 25 years or more.
Is it that long? I didn't know that.
They had cards, like the cards that you get as a kid.
Yeah.
And it was in a little plastic thing, and I would give them to my clients each, with their travels when they were going to Europe.
I wish I knew that, because I say, for years I was doing it by, I have them in my book as well. I have little food cards in each country. I don't know.
Oh, we can't see it. Yeah, we can't see it.
Sorry, anyway, in the book, I included in each language of each country that I pick as my top destinations. I put a little food card showing how to say it and spell it in each different language or script. And I think that empowers people.
Yeah, we give it, and I know at our agency, we provide our clients a little PDF with similar sort of resources where it's like, you have something that you can show someone if they don't even speak English or can't understand English or whatever your language is, they can see it in their local script. But it's so important nowadays to make sure that you've got something to support yourself, because you can really be caught off guard if you're in a country where you don't speak the native language and you're sitting at a restaurant trying to explain to somebody. I think we've all been there at some point.
Oh yes, gosh.
Where you're like, I don't think they understood what I asked for, but we're going to see what we get. We're going to see.
Yeah, no, there's lots of funny stories there where, you're trying to describe it and they think, oh, they can't be serious. Or, they're from a very meat-eating culture or background. And you'll pick at this meal and you go, what? That's got to be chicken, or I'm sure that's not vegan. So, but I think the world, hopefully slowly, I think by all of us going out there and engaging, connecting and being our authentic self, our authentic self, I think you're almost coming home as a vegan. You're being who you're supposed to be. You're connected with people on a deeper level and you're changing lives and they're thinking themselves. So I think it's really transforming the world. And I think veganism is on the map.
Are there any gadgets that you would recommend to people?
Gadgets.
I have one in mind, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm trying to think gadgets.
I mean, one too.
I don't know if I have one. I'm trying to think. What are yours? And maybe you'll inspire me to think of one.
So I got one because of all the luggage disasters that are having. It's an Apple AirTag. And I read it, I got it because I read this story about this guy who, I think he was from Ireland, and he was traveling somewhere in Europe, and his luggage got lost, and he was actually able to track exactly where it was. And it was actually, the luggage was delivered to the wrong address. So he had to call, he had to call the airline to tell him, no, it's not at this address. You have to pick it up and take it to this address. So he was able to find his luggage. And I actually used it in my Croatia trip, and it'll actually say, hey, you're no longer near your luggage anymore. It's way back here. So it's just a tag. It has a little lithium battery to it, and it just keeps you updated. Yeah. So I just ordered
huge right now, and it's huge right now in Canada.
Yeah.
Without belaboring the point, we're having some challenges at our airports. There's lots of issues with baggage. And we're actually seeing that a lot of passengers are including these little tags just to quickly be able to see, has it left the city? Has it left the country?
Right.
Where is the bag? You can then help the airline locate your bag quicker.
Right.
And the airlines right now are being asked, why are you not utilizing this technology more?
Right.
So they're trying to figure out how to maybe include that, or have their tags have something that can keep it where you can find it. So I'm sure
What a great idea.
Yeah.
I love that. No, I've never used it. I know I've seen the kind of technology with keys, when you lose your keys and you can have that little tracker. So it's, I guess, a similar thing. What a great idea.
Yeah. I didn't know about the keys.
Mine really wasn't a gadget, but something that I know that I have now. It's a zero waste travel kit that I've included in my travels. And we actually then are able to use a bamboo fork. We use all the cutlery. You're able to reuse that. So if you're out on a short day trip, you don't need to necessarily utilize plastic or anything that you're uncomfortable with. It also includes a bamboo toothbrush, and it's got, because it's zero waste, it has soap that's been recycled, and just little things like that. You can get them in really small packs.
I've seen those. Yeah, they're great.
They're really great. They're really great.
Yeah, I have one of those as well. My little spoon, and I have the basic, the straw. They're wonderful. Things like that. Yeah.
Another pro tip: if you have a metal straw, make sure to clean that metal straw out very regularly. It is not like a plastic straw that you can rinse off and it will clean itself. We actually have had people in Canada who've gotten quite sick from not cleaning out that metal straw.
Oh, interesting.
So, really? Wow.
Yeah. Another
wow. And I always encourage people to, not be buying water as we go along. Any hotel or anything I go to, I ask for filtered water, and most do offer them now, which is very safe drinking water. And to buy these, there's some of them are better than others. And I forget the brand I used to use, always have that water bottle, refillable water bottle. I think that's so important, because I think about people traveling and places like Southeast Asia, where I've just, been working for the last 8-9 years. People are always, it's hot. People don't want to drink the local water, which is fair enough. And they're just constantly buying plastic bottle after plastic bottle. So to find that best kind of, where it is easy to clean and, to store and to keep. I've even had people who've used that ones with filters their own water. You put in tap water and it takes out the mercury and takes out all the other things. And I've tasted it, and the water actually did taste good. So I think it's just important to think about the environment. By being a vegan, we're already there. We're already, making such a huge difference. So these little tiny things, these, your bamboo cutlery and straw and things like that are I think, really changing the way we travel, hopefully leaving a much better footprint.
I did buy a collapsible water bottle, but that doesn't help with the filtering. So
No.
it would be great.
Did it work though? Did it leak, Donna, or was it fine?
Did it leak? No.
Yeah. Oh no, it didn't.
No.
Okay. I've not
But
used one of those.
basically you can't take the water bottle filled with water through the airport. So you just, it collapses to like this high. And then, you put it in your bag. And then when you get out of customs, you can, or, TSA, just pull it out and fill it up with, the fountain water or whatever they've got. So
one of the filters that I've used is called Lifestraw. They actually have different formats. You can actually get one long tube that's a filtration system. It looks like kind of like a bubble tea straw would, much wider, but you can actually put that into any water and you can drink right from that if you need to. That's a little extreme, but they've also got bottle filters that you can put into your bottle as well to make sure that you've got filtered water. So if you don't even have access to,
And what's the name of that,
it's
Jason?
called Lifestraw. Lifestraw was,
Lifestraw?
yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna look
Lifestraw.
that up.
Now I found them, as I say, through the sort of, being prepared when you're going hiking, or if you're
Right.
going on a multi-day hiking trip, you might not have access to a ton of great water sources. So
Yeah.
rather than carrying gallons and gallons with you, you can buy one of these straws. And I think it does, and this may be where my information is not 100%. I think it was about 900 liters that you could drink through that straw to be able to have it completely filtered, and it pulls out everything.
That's
Wow.
great.
Yeah. And I was going to say, Todd, on your point about, trying to get out there and back into traveling, I think where a lot of people get stressed out is all of the little components that you have to put together for a trip. And that's where Donna and I keep reminding everybody, that's what Donna and I do. That's sort of the thing we really like to plan, are these plant-based experiences. The reality is a lot of our clients are not 100% plant-based, but may have someone in their family who is. And what Donna and I can do is try and piece together some of those plant-based experiences, whether you're planning a staycation locally or you're planning a big international trip. We do them all. I mean, I have some clients who are looking at new experiences that have popped up in Ontario. It's really, they're calling it Ontario glamping.
Wow.
But what they're doing is they're taking small group tours. The company owner, the company that we partnered with is called Lake Fever Wilderness, and they take you through Ontario provincial parks. But the best part is this tour operator is vegan himself. And he started his business as, we are going to run vegetarian options, but he's slowly making, like every one of us know, once you show people how great vegans can eat and how easy it is to be vegan, a lot more people open themselves up to the experience. And he's hopefully next year going to be 100% vegan, but he's offering a unique experience where you can go to a campground. You don't have to provide the tent. You don't have to provide the sleeping bag.
Wow.
He provides full service. He'll drive you there. He'll get you home. And not everybody has access to camping gear. So it's one of those things where I'm thinking outside of the box. What's going to give you that great experience? Going and, standing at the museum with the huge lineups, that might be the best experience for you. But if somebody wants something unique, there's lots of different ways to travel now that we never really considered before.
I think that's fantastic. I think what you guys do, and I've seen some of the stuff, I've been following, and Donna and I've been in contact, is fantastic. It's kind of enabling and inspiring and kind of helping people get out there and feel, because it is such a scary time as well with the COVID and trying to make the best of it. The idea of that staycation thing where the tent and everything's there, because that's so expensive, is a great idea. Because I think so many people who live, in urban areas or towns and cities love the idea of camping, but then to buy a camper or a tent and sleep and all those things is just overwhelming. And I think it's great as well that you guys support and recognize or seek out and find these ethical kind of sustainable other partners or companies. As I always try to support local businesses, but especially if I can find a vegan or ethically sustainable business, local, sustainable, vegan, I'm there to support them, always on my travels when I've done that. As soon as I left that monastery in Vietnam 6 years ago, I've been seeking out vegans and trying to really celebrate them and support them. And I think it's great that you guys do that as well.
During lockdown, we found we were able to travel a little bit more than you guys, but so we found a vegan, actually I had known about it and been there once, but we found out that they were open. There was a vegan bed and breakfast in West Virginia, an hour and a half away. So we would just go there every few months just to get away.
Nice.
And it's dog friendly, so it was perfect. It was perfect. So I have a question. It's not travel related, but I noticed it on here and I heard you speak about this. So you have some books in your reference, in your resources that you like or are preferred. And one of them is the reason why I went vegan. And it was about a few years after it was written was Animal Liberation. Are
Mm.
there, I mean, just, suggestions to give to people as books for good reading?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
to
that
educate
was a
themselves?
radical book, Peter Singer, isn't it? And another one that was really inspiring for me was Melanie Joy. I don't know if you know you like to
Yes.
do is that why do we what's it called? Why do we eat? Why do we love dogs, eat
Yeah,
pigs, and wear cows, or something like that?
yeah,
And anyway, that book to me, I remember when I kind of came out, I always call it my coming out as vegan. I wanted to, you do when you realize there's more there. You want to educate and learn more. That book was, wow, incredible for me. There was a new book. It's not really necessarily vegan, but it's a book about the future and the future of meat and the future. I think it's in here, I think it's called Sex, Robots, and Vegan Meat. And it talks about the future of all our different things, like, our lifestyles, our cities, our this. And one of them is our food and our diet. And it's kind of controversial, but I thought it was really interesting because it interviewed all these startups about, if you think about cell-based meat, cultural meat, and all of that. And a lot of those startups are done by vegans wanting to change the world.
Mhm.
They're not made just by they're getting the money, the funding from the tech industry. But these are, dyed-in-the-wool, ethical vegans who really want to change the world and stop all the animal industry from taking off. And that was a really interesting book. So if you're interested in that, that's a really good one.
There's one I noticed that you don't have in here. I
What's
don't know
that?
if you've read it or not. Diet for a New America, John Robbins.
No, I haven't read that.
Do you know who John Robbins is?
I know the name, yeah. Okay, I'll write that down.
He was the sole heir to Baskin Robbins.
Oh, right, okay.
And it's I don't know what year, it's 1987. So I had been vegan for a few years. I mean, these are just some ideas to give to people so that they can, for Christmas presents.
Absolutely, yeah. And I have, my book list, and some of them I'm just trying to look here now and think of myself. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many here. Yeah, Why We Love Dogs, Eat Pigs, and Wear Cows. I loved that book. That's kind of from her sociological background. And she talks about how we have this invisible belief system that she labels carnism. She's coined that phrase. Because if you think there's no word for that, because then that's the most dangerous belief system that we all grew up in. It's this idea that eating meat is natural, normal, and necessary. She calls it the 3 N's. And she challenges all of those. She says it's just an invisible belief system that we've all bought into. We're all brainwashed, and it needs to be challenged. And that book, really, when I first came out of that monastery and got that book, I knew that, there's no turning back. It was just life-changing, sort of maybe, similar to your book, A Diet for a New America. It kind of made everything fit into place. It made sense to me. So that one was really important. Oh, Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. Did you guys know that book?
No.
That's a really great book as well. He works for the New York Times, an American writer. And I only bought that a little while ago. He's got a new book out as well, I believe. But yeah, Eating Animals. That was a pretty incredible book. So there's lots of great books out there. Yeah, I have my modern reads and my classic reads in my resource section of my books, just so people, while they're traveling, they can find stuff.
I think it's important to remember vegans are always trying to find more information. I think that's inherent in just our personalities, is we want to learn more. We want to understand more about the decisions that we're making. I think I haven't met a vegan that has stopped learning about veganism and trying to understand.
Yep.
And, reading any type of, you get a vegan, a book for Christmas about veganism, or about, sustainability and environmentalism, it's going to be appreciated. It's going to be read. You just got to figure out if they want it in paperback or if they'd like it on their Kindle, but you can never go wrong that route.
I think you're absolutely right, Jason. I think as vegans, it's one of the things I loved about it, is that you have to kind of stop and rethink the world, because you're taught and you're brought up, like I say, in this belief system or ideology that you have to then question. So as soon as you start breaking that down, and saying, right, that doesn't make sense, or that's not right, then everything's up in the air, and you've got to kind of rethink the whole world, don't you? So we're always kind of taking in information and making sense of it. And I think I think that's one of the great blessings of, being vegan, seeing the world from that perspective.
Now, Donna, we're running out of time, but we're going to put up an image on the recording of the book so everybody can see the covers. But Donna, you were mentioning a giveaway.
Yes, if anyone is interested, London, here we go, Todd has generously given us a PDF of vegan travel recipes. And so if you're interested, please send me a private message on Facebook or send me an email, donna@greenearthtravel.com, and we'd be happy to give that out to you. I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
And I don't
happy to
even
share
cook.
that.
Again, something all vegans really like is making their own food and
That's right. I like
using
eating
great
everyone else's
recipes.
food.
So
I love making my own food even on the road. So I would often, like, if I was traveling on my own, I'd get an Airbnb with a little tiny kitchen. And I love going out to new places, and you learn so much about a culture. Go to their local grocery store or market and source out food and new exotic things maybe you've never seen, and taking them back and learning how to cook. So I developed these I think it's 16 recipes. And some of them really basic, like little energy balls that you can make very simply, or a little trail mix, into more kind of wraps and little things you can get local ingredients and make it really simply in your room.
I was going to say,
yeah.
you can make it in the hotel room. Is that right? So it's not cooking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm happy to share those with everybody here, and it's just been such a joy being here with you guys.
that's great.
Thank you so much.
If anybody has any questions that's watching this presentation, you can feel free to interact with us on the Zoom. Send in those questions, and we'll get Todd to reply to you in a timely fashion. And thank you, Todd. This was great.
Before you go, where can we find you on all the socials?
Right. Well, my on Instagram and Facebook, I'm Rebel Vegan Life. So if you look Rebel Vegan Life, you'll find me. And I have a couple postings a day, often a little reel of me exploring a new vegan eatery or discovering something new. And then also my website is Rebel Vegan Life. So that's kind of where, if you remember Rebel Vegan Life, you'll find me. And I look forward to engaging with people.
And one last thing, where can they get your books?
I think the easiest way is just go on to Amazon. I do have it on my website. You can go through that. But Amazon, if you put on Rebel Vegan or my name, Todd Sinclair, you go straight to me and you'll see my Rebel Vegan trilogy, I'm calling it now. That sounds very grand, doesn't it?
I like that.
It's the new Star Wars trilogy.
Yes, that's right. I'll have to work on it. I'm thinking
them.
of new books. So if anybody's got ideas, I'm thinking about vegan families and vegan. I'm trying to do less gluten. So I might do a vegan, gluten-free
That's
vegan
actually
book.
huge.
Yeah, is it? Okay. Well,
just make sure to remind everybody, because I think a lot of people right now think that every vegan is gluten-free. So differentiating the fact that it's really, you don't have to be both. But there are quite a few vegans who I know who are gluten-free and are able to.
Or just even like vegan who wants to reduce. I find a lot of people are now more mindful and aware of that and of gluten and want to find ways of, finding other alternatives and ways of living with less gluten. So lots still there.
That's great. I'm hoping, Todd, you'll be able to come back and join us for our January summit. This has been fantastic. It was a wonderful chat. And thank you.
Thank you. I hope to be back in January and see you all then. So thank you guys.
Oof. I'm so excited. Oh, okay, there we go. So that was fun. I love him, don't you? Jason, where are you? So right now what we're going to do, there's Jason.
Sorry about that, Donna.
That's okay. That's
technical glitches.
His
that
Instagram is just so you guys know, his Instagram and his Facebook is so much fun. He likes to party, and he, is just, he has, his outfits are fabulous anyway. So, we are going to talk a little bit.
Well, Donna, before we jumped from that, I actually, since we recorded that earlier in the week, so late last week, so I've done a bit more research, because I know you were asking about vegan luggage, and I found a few that I wanted to call out. There's Matt and Nat Luggage has a weekender bag. The thing that I really liked about their weekender bag was that the lining is made from recycled water bottles, which is pretty cool. Samsonite also has a new eco brand called Maxim.
Cool.
And the shell is made out of recycled yogurt containers. And
What's it called again?
It's called Maxim, Maxsum. I'll put it into the chat as well.
Okay, I'm putting them all in the chat for you. You don't have to-
Perfect. The other thing
Okay.
I wanted to say was, and I put it into the chat myself, was packing cubes. You talked about how
Yes.
amazing packing cubes were.
I just discovered them.
I think a lot of people have been discovering them, especially with the trying to fit everything into a carry-on bag and not having to
Yes.
check it, especially in Canada. We've been talking a lot about
Oh,
it.
it's been a nightmare. The luggage has been a nightmare. We're not, anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
And
but
I also wanted to say that I did confirm the amount of liters and gallons that the Lifestraw actually filters, and it's
Yeah.
4,000 liters or 1,000 gallons from one straw. And
Okay.
it only weighs about less than 2 ounces. So you can pack 3 or 4 of those into your knapsack. Not
Yeah,
really
and it'll
have,
last you a long time.
it'll last you a long time. You can share them with people. And I think they were just under $20. You can get them at a lot of sporting good places. I'm sure
Okay.
in the United States you can find them as well, but it's it's a game changer for sure.
Great. So let's before we get to the questions, we're just going to talk quickly about some general insurance information. And I would love for Paula. Paula had a question about animal welfare, and then maybe some others to come up and just unmute if you can. But travel insurance, that's a big one these days. I don't know about you, Jason, but I've had a lot of things that have happened. And
Well,
I want you to talk about CFAR for Canada, and then
Well,
I'll
I
talk
think
a
the
little
first
bit
thing
about.
I think the first thing to mention in the topic of insurance is it's really difficult to talk sort of blanket over insurance.
Right.
I think
right.
you and I can tell travelers, if you're traveling right now, you want to make sure you have, in the very least, some medical coverage that's going to cover you for COVID, that's
Right.
going to give you medical coverage wherever you go. Some
Right.
people think that they've got great coverage through their credit card and their work. So I always just recommend take a look at what the coverage is that you have. Make sure you know exact amounts and what the policy procedures are. Clients, I know that clients can book with you and I as well through our insurance providers. I work with Manulife as a partner. That's the John Hancock down in the States. But they have some great coverages, and they now are covering COVID based on sort of government and CDC regulations. So
Right.
it's important to make sure you have coverage and that you know what coverage you've got. And, there's products out there where you can get great cancellation coverage as well. You mentioned CFAR, Donna. That's cancel for any reason coverage. And it's grown in popularity in the last handful of years. But there are a lot of stipulations around when you can purchase that coverage. I know in Canada, it's particularly in Ontario, you must purchase the cancellation coverage within 72 hours of making a non-refundable deposit.
Yeah, within the US, it's it depends on the company. Sometimes it's like within 14 days and sometimes it's within 21 days.
Yep.
And the same thing with the if you have a pre-existing medical condition, which is not the same as a pre-existing medical condition with your health insurance. It's totally different. It's a lot easier.
And
so
I think,
you have to, you
oh,
have
sorry,
to.
I was
you have
going to
to
say
look
a
it up.
lot of people get really nervous if they have a pre-existing condition. And they really shouldn't be. All that you're going to have to do, and I'm speaking with experience from Manulife, is there is a series of questions that you'll be asked. And if you have some medical conditions you're worried about, there's a medical questionnaire that's really very easy to fill out. And then it'll tell us what sort of products we can offer you. And it really isn't saying you're unhealthy, you can't travel. It's trying to figure out and make sure that you have the best coverage possible. So don't be frightened by the medical questionnaires. Like you said, it's not tied to any insurance. It's really just making sure the insurance company knows what they're agreeing to when you book this coverage. And I like these packages where you can throw in all the coverage. The one that we work with a lot in Manulife, and I usually quote for clients, is called Premium Protection. And it includes sort of all the coverages that you need.
Right.
And it's what they call the gold standard of their packages, because it offers some protections that give you increased medical. It covers you for COVID. So talk to your travel advisor. If you're in Canada, reach out to me. You can book insurance through our website in Canada. If you
Right.
are in a province that's outside of Ontario, I'm sadly not able to guide you on it because they're very, very strict.
Right. Well, you're
on-
not a travel insurance agent. You are a travel agent. And like myself, I can give you quotes, but it's up to the individual to look at each policy to see what's included and what's not included and make comparisons. I will tell you that travel insurance in the US has gotten very expensive this year for obvious reasons, but it's better than losing a trip that's going to cost you $10,000, $15,000, even $2,000. You know, it's better than losing that money that your hard-earned money that you've put away.
No, and I will
you
say
know, then
insurance for us here in Canada, in Ontario in particular, we do have to be licensed. We have to abide by certain standards. And that's why I say, find
Right.
someone local, tell them what your concerns are. And most people are concerned with, am I going to get my money back if I cancel? So
Right.
if you're scared of that sort of, because cancellation coverage, I explain to clients is something where they're saying, we're going to give you back this money. And if it's $15,000 a person is the cost of your trip, that's a huge expense that the insurance company would be agreeing to pay out if you
Right.
took sort of that cancel for any reason coverage. Now, there are percentages that your cancel for any reason coverage will cover. It's generally not the whole entire travel amount, but the cancellation coverage is probably the most expensive coverage. So
Right.
I say to clients, that's when you start trying to figure out, okay, you want medical and maybe a bit of cancellation, but maybe we've booked a trip where you won't have cancellation for till 30 days to your departure. And in that case, we might not have to get you the cancellation coverage because you might have the option of getting a future travel credit, or you might have flexible, like suppliers are being really flexible right now with their deposits, and they really understand that plans are changing. So there's ways to do
they're
it.
cracking down, you know, they are cracking down, but you know, again, I can send you quotes, you can purchase through the links that I send you. But if you have detailed questions, then I always suggest to call the companies that I, you know, referred you to. You wanted to talk real quickly about trip financing. If we can make this real quick, because then we have some questions.
Yeah,
for
absolutely.
people.
Well, I wanted to talk two things to think about. The first one was actually an assurance plan that I know is available in the United States and Canada. Well, I'm able to sell that to anybody in North America, and it's not insurance, it's called assurance, and it's a product called Priority Protection Passport. It is something that supplements your insurance. The big benefit of this is that they do provide assistance, including covering your hotel for a 14-day quarantine. If you end up having to quarantine outside of your country and unable to come back, they offer medical evacuation via a medevac plane. If you do get hospitalized for any reason while you travel, they have a great app where you can check into when you leave, and it already will know based on your trip. You'll put in some details about your trip. And when you're in destination, if you run into a challenge, you push this button and you'll be immediately connected to somebody who will answer any of your questions, whether it's, you know, you've been in the middle of a hurricane, you've facing something political, you've had a crime committed against you, your passport's gone. And this product, I found out, was actually only available to sort of elite luxury clients for a long time. And because of the pandemic, they have made this plan accessible to a number of people. And what I really like about it is you don't book it for your trip. You actually book it for a period of time. So you can get it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or up to a year. And it's quite affordable. It's only hundreds of dollars for the year to have that benefit. So if you're traveling a lot or you're planning on traveling for work, it's something to look at. And I think people don't realize that travel agents can help you with some of this stuff. So
Right. Well,
about
the travel insurance companies I have, there's one company, there's some companies that don't offer COVID extension,
Mhm.
meaning that you have to stay because you've got COVID. But there is one company that I use that it's like, maybe $14 for your extension, and it'll give you an extra $2,000. The typical insurance company in the US will cover you for $2,000 extra for your hotels, but this one in particular covers you for $4,000, so an additional $2,000 per person extra. So that
And
gives
the-
you a little, and it's like $13. It's really no big
And the
deal.
reason
But-
why I like that assurance plan, Donna, is because again, if you get your medical coverage through a travel insurance plan, this assurance plan, they don't have a limit on that 14-day quarantine amount. They actually
Right.
just make sure you find a place and you've got a place to lay your head, and they work with local contacts to be able to make that. And like, I think a lot of us, if we've ever made an insurance policy claim, sometimes you have to cover that cost and then come home, make the claim, and get reimbursed. With this sort of assurance plan, they're handling all of that on the back end, and you're not out any of that sort of money up front. So that's why I wanted
Right.
to mention it, because I
Right,
know
right.
that it's a new product and it's something that I think travelers should be considering adding because it's really cost effective.
So let's just quickly go over the trip financing, because you and
Yeah.
I have two different ways of doing it. Basically, when you book with any of the tour operators I work with, they'll want a deposit down, and then final payments due anywhere between 60 and 90 days prior.
Mhm.
Now, if you're doing airline tickets, you're going to have to pay the airline tickets up front with some of the companies. Some of the tour companies I work with have contracted rates. So all they want is the deposit of X amount, anywhere, it's sometimes a percentage and sometimes it's just an amount. And then final payment will be due within a certain days. But you're talking about financing trips monthly.
Well, what I really wanted to talk about was we've talked about the greatest of all time sort of trips to consider, the ultimate Christmas gift, sort of vacation experiences where you're going with tour operators like World Vegan Travel, where it's, higher end trips and you're spending a lot of money on these vacations. But I think a lot of people get scared by those amounts and think, oh my gosh, I have to pay it all up front, or I have to pay 50% up front, and then in 30 days I'm paying the balance. There are a ton of different ways now to finance your vacations. Vegan Vacations has a partner that offers a financing program. It's called the ZIP program. You have to go to our website to read the full terms and conditions. We state that right off the top. All of them are available online. But this program actually lets you choose whether or not you'd like to pay for your vacation over 12 months, or whether you'd like to defer your payments for a year and maybe go on your vacation and come back and then pay it. And it's sort of like an Amex style card that you would get with a credit balance on it, but then you could use it towards purchasing travel. So I wanted to make sure people were thinking outside of the box with a lot of these things. I know you said, Donna, you don't do sort of payment plans. I've had a couple of families reach out and they've wanted to have a monthly sort of payment. And I'm always wanting to have that conversation because I'd rather know that travelers are getting to enjoy vacations and figuring out how to make it a little more affordable for themselves.
Thank you for that. So we're going to wrap up, but we do want some questions. And as I said, I think Paula had a question, which I can either read if Paula doesn't want to come on. But basically, keep your eyes out for a post-summit survey that will be coming up in the next week. And be sure to follow both myself and Jason on social media, which my social media is, do we have that on there? My social media on Facebook and Instagram is Green Earth Travel. On Twitter, it's Vegan Travel. But you want to join the group Vegan Travel Summit, because that's where we give all the advice and we, have these types of workshops. The workshop is live right now. Jason, where is your socials?
My socials are Vegan Vacations on Facebook and on TikTok. I'm just about to start on TikTok, so come and join me. And I'm veganvacations.ca on Instagram.
Oh, it wasn't Paula. I kept saying Paula. It's Peggy
Peggy.
Kaplan, and I'm not sure if
Mhm.
she's here. Peggy, if you're here, well,
It's
I
a
can
great,
ask.
it's a great question. Ask the question,
Yeah.
Donna, because I definitely
Yeah,
do
because
know
I
some
don't think she
answers.
is here. She said her biggest interest in vegan travel is not just food, but animal welfare. I've basically stopped traveling abroad, even to various islands, because of the animal situations they tend to come across. I'm wondering if you have contacts in cities around the world who can help when and if situations come about. There are too many for us to recommend, but I will give you for instance, I was in Dominican Republic in 2014. This is when the internet really started to pop, and my husband and I found these two dogs that we fell in love with, but we couldn't take them back. We didn't know anything about them. I went online and immediately found a DR organization that knew these dogs. These dogs belonged to somebody. They knew exactly where they were. And I'm actually still in touch with these people. So if you go online, that's your best bet. Sometimes you have to dig deep and make sure that they're legitimate. I'm just trying to think if there are any other, it's a good suggestion, and maybe I can put it in the survey later, if I can find a link. But the best place is to go to the animal shelters or animal rescue groups. If do it before you go, so that you have it.
Well,
and
it's
you don't
also,
have to
Donna,
worry
I
about it.
think if I'm reading Peggy's question correctly, it plays into what we've talked about before at sessions. Is Peggy knows that she's concerned about animal welfare. It's one of the first
Right.
things I want to know from a client. If that's a motivation for you, and that's
Right.
something that you want to make sure that you are not that you're taking into account when you're planning your travel,
Right.
that you really make sure that people know that, because a lot of these countries and a lot of destinations have traditions and have a lot of uses of animals that doesn't coincide with vegan lifestyle. And
Yeah, absolutely.
we've had the conversation amongst our founding groups just about the fact of, it's really, we're trying to balance traditions that people have with people's lifestyle and people's morals and ethics. And I think there are some vegans who approach veganism from the, I want to be a healthy eater. And there are many of us who it is, I don't want any animal product. I want to make sure every animal is being taken care of in all aspects of our life. So it's a challenge for a lot of these destinations
Right.
to ensure that everything's going to be 100% vegan, or that you're not going to run into these situations. So what I try and do, and I think you would agree, Donna, we try and manage our clients' expectations. If they make a recommendation for an island or a spot that we know might have issues, we talk about it before we start sending options. We have the conversation about how do you feel about certain situations if you came across something, because it's really difficult. And I think it's difficult even in our own cities and towns to, be able to live that vegan lifestyle and navigate. So it's about managing expectations and making sure that you know where you're heading.
But if you see something, whether it's at the resort or with the tour operator that you're working with, don't be afraid to say something, do something.
Yep.
That's what I've been doing. In fact, with a company called G Adventures, they were doing bullfights and elephant rides, which I didn't know about I don't think I knew about the elephant rides, but I was not the bullfights, but it was running with the bulls. For years, I would write to the CEO saying, you got to stop this. My clients won't like this. And lo and behold, one day, not only did they stop running with the bulls, they stopped doing the elephant rides. So if you don't speak up, nothing's going to happen.
They
right?
also have the travel company also has an animal welfare policy. So we're starting to see more of these these companies come out and say, this is not okay. And like Donna said,
it's not okay anymore. Right.
And we also say we've got to be the advocates for this. So I make sure that when my clients get back, that they give me a full review of what their experience was like, if they ran into any issues, because in a lot of cases, it's just people need to be educated a little bit better and need to understand that veganism extends past the dining room. So I think Peggy's question is a valid question. I think it's a concern that all travelers, and especially vegan travelers, are trying to navigate and wrap their brain around. But I think if we come together, we're going to make the world a better place.
There is a really interesting documentary that I saw, and it was actually put out by G Adventures. If anyone's interested, it's called The Last Tourist,
Mhm.
and you can find it on Apple TV, and I think you can find it on their website, thelasttourist.com.
Mhm.
So it does go over that because Jane Goodall's in it. It also goes over things like, we're not even talking just about animals, non-human animals, but we're talking about the human animals as well, and how they're being exploited in travel and the tourism. So I really recommend that you guys watch that. It's only about an hour long. Excuse me. With
Mhm.
that, how do you want to wrap this up, Jason?
I
Can't
think
believe we spent 2 days together, just you and I. We became best friends.
Well, I hope everybody had a really good time. I hope they enjoyed. And as they should know, we're going to have these posted in our Facebook group where you can come back and watch again if you'd like to. And we're going to have them posted on our YouTube page. So if you want to share them with people outside of the Facebook group, you can do that as well.
And the YouTube is Vegan
It's
Travel
Vegan
Association.
Travel Association. Yes.
Right.
We
So we're
have,
trying to build that up as well.
Yeah, we've got some great content on there.
Yeah, so I really appreciate you guys coming out and hanging out with us for the last 2 days. Thank you, Catherine. I hope to see you soon. Don't forget Veganuary. Oh, we got somebody coming in last minute. We're going to let them come in last minute, see if they have any questions. We have in January, we've got Veganuary. And we will be doing a workshop. We just haven't figured out the dates just yet, or the speakers, but we're working on it this summer.
Well, I think it would be great if everybody, we'll add a question in our post-summit survey, just asking if you have any ideas or information that you would like, because if you want us to touch on a topic, we can make sure to find some speakers and presenters that can bring that information to you. But we're all excited.
And if you missed any of this, you can rewatch it on Facebook and YouTube. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Brighde.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you, Gretchen. Thank you, London Todd. Who else am I thanking? Brittany, you're going to look good as a bald-headed man. We've been laughing about that all night. His hair's been disappearing.
And don't forget Jason Wyrick. Thank you.
And Jason Wyrick and Gretchen. Yes. Yeah. So if you missed any of those, please go back onto the Facebook page, which is Vegan Travel Summit. And you can rewatch everything. You can go on the YouTube and watch.
Have a great night.
We're here for you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Valerie. Bye.